Turn the nation's fifth. Focusing in on one of the nation's premier young running backs to carry his struggling offense. Sophomore Curtis Enos has rushed for 345 yards in just 2 games. Today, he looks to lead undefeated Penn State against Northern Illinois next. A tradition. Some of these tailgaters arrived yesterday afternoon here at State College, Pennsylvania, and they're in mid-season vocal form. We're at Beaver Stadium, State College, Pennsylvania. 95,000 plus will be on hand to watch their beloved Penn State Nittany Lions play host to the Northern Illinois Huskies. Hi, everybody. I'm Wayne Larrabee along with Randy Wright. Good to have you with us for Big Ten football this afternoon. And, Randy, this is one of the great venues of college football, isn't it?
Absolutely, Wayne. Whether you're a fan tailgating in the parking lot or a student sitting in the stands or a player on the field, it's great to be a part of Big Ten football, and Northern Illinois gets an opportunity today to experience that.
And, of course, joining us on the sidelines, as usual, our good friend Jim Barber. And, Jim, this is the biggest crowd these Huskies will ever play before.
Yes, indeed, Wayne. They expanded this stadium some 20,000 seats recently, and believe it or not, that's the biggest crowd NIU has played before this season. However, the Huskies have seen a big house before. November 1995 against Florida in the Swamp. Wayne?
Well, keeping us up to date on what's going on.
So amazing.
All right, thank you very much, Mike. We've got an overcast day, temperature about in the mid-60s, crisp, cool September afternoon for college football. Well, Penn State comes in with a 2-0 record. They've won by identical scores of 24-7, but certainly there is some concern. Enos is rolling along on offense, no doubt about that, but defensively, or I should say on offense in the passing game, they're concerned.
Wally Richardson has struggled at the quarterback position, but the coaches don't necessarily believe that he's at fault. They have a rebuilt offensive line, some young, inexperienced wide receivers, and they believe they're going to have to play better before Richardson's going to play better.
As far as the defense is concerned, this may be one of Joe Paterno's best defensive units in this decade.
Unlike the offense, the defense returned the majority of their starters, and they are playing just superbly right now. Led by all-everything defensive back Brian Miller, they're going to have to continue to play that well until the offense gets in sync.
As far as Northern Illinois is concerned, offensively, they return the nation's 5th leading rusher from a year ago, but Charles Talley's off to a slow start.
He's only got 127 yards rushing in 2 games. But when you have a new coaching staff, a new offense, and also a rebuilt offensive line, it's going to take some time before they get on track.
Well, the new coaching staff is headed by Joe Novak, no stranger to the Big Ten.
No, he's been a defensive coordinator at Indiana for a long time, so he knows the Big Ten. He knows Penn State. He's very excited about playing today.
All right, Northern Illinois 0-2, Penn State undefeated, 6th ranked in the nation at 2-0. We'll return to the opening kickoff coming up in just a few minutes. Stadium, State College, Pennsylvania. Better than 95,000 expected on hand this afternoon. Northern Illinois will receive to start the ball game. Brett Conway, the senior from Lilburn, Georgia, puts it on the tee. Dion Mitchell on the far side of your picture. On the left and on the near or right side, Leon Moody back deep to receive for the Huskies. And we're underway. Dion Mitchell backed up 5 yards deep and takes the advice of his teammate and stays in the end zone with it. And Northern Illinois will get started with a 1st and 10 out of the 20-yard line. Brandon Barker, the quarterback, a junior out of Amarillo, Texas. This ball club has struggled to score points, losing its first 2 games. The Wheaties lineup. Northern Illinois Huskies, led by Charles Talley, the nation's 5th leading returning rusher. Kent Booth is the most experienced returning offensive lineman on this team. And it's a 1st down out of the 20-yard line. Barker to the air. And he's got his man, the wide receiver, over the middle, and making that catch is Leon Moody for the 1st down. Jim Nelson on the stop. So it'll be 1st down. Penn State Nittany Lions, Brandon Noble up front, leads the charge on that front line. He's a senior. Linebacker U is what they call this place. Aaron Collins has had an outstanding start to his season thus far. And in the secondary, Brian Miller, the most decorated of the Nittany Lions. First down off a gain of 11 at the 31-yard line for Northern Illinois. They have scripted the first 15 offensive plays here this afternoon. And Barker again to throw, and again he's got his man. Did he make the catch? Yes, Leon Moody was able to hang on despite being hit by Miller. The Barker's pass complete out to the 38-yard line on a gain of about 7 yards, setting up a 2nd and 3.
You really have to like Northern Illinois' approach right here. They've scripted the first 15 plays, as you said. Regardless of what the defense is, they're going to stick to that script, and they've come out aggressively with high percentage confidence building type of plays.
2nd down and about 3. Barker for the 3rd straight time back to throw. And he throws this one away. Deion Mitchell was the intended receiver on the near side. Underneath the coverage of Sean Lee. 3rd down and 3 coming up for Northern Illinois.
Once again, this play has already been called. It's already scripted. The only way Joe Novak and the Husky offense is going to change that script is if it's 3rd and very short. So this is the same play they'd call whether it would have been 1st and 10, 2nd and 30, or 3rd and 3.
So rays of sunshine here on an otherwise overcast day in central Pennsylvania as we get underway. No score early in this first quarter. 3rd down for Northern Illinois, about 3 yards to go. Florence, the running back, with a good spin move, is pulled down just short of the first down across the 40-yard line. Brandon Noble, Chris Snyder were both there to make the stop. And it's a 4th down and inches. Well, if you're Joe Novak, you've got a decision to make here. And it looks like the offense will stay on the field. They're going for it.
Looks like they're pulling everything out of the hat right now. Early in the game, you don't want to give Penn State's offense, which although it is struggling, excellent field position. This shows a lot of confidence he's got in his offensive line. They outweigh Penn State's defensive line by quite a bit. And apparently, he's got a lot more confidence in his offensive line right now.
Mitch Jacoby, a tight end, back into the lineup along with Bobby Reed, double tight ends, and they're going to need a timeout. Northern Illinois a little bit late in getting their personnel on the field for this 4th down call. 4th and less than a yard just across the Husky 40-yard line, and we've got a break of the action. Let's head back to the studio, the Big Ten studio, and Mike Gleason.
Okay, Wayne.
Mike, just underway, 4th and inches for Northern Illinois. And a gutsy call by Joe Novak, but he came in here and he said, we've got to play loose and have fun for 3 hours. And this is playing loose, isn't it?
This is playing loose, and if they make this 1st down, it's going to be a lot more fun. But if they don't make it, putting their defense in a tough spot. Good job that time by Brandon Barker, NIU's quarterback, to call the timeout. Don't rush things. It's a big play. Take your time. Make sure everybody's on the same page. Even though you hate to waste those timeouts early, that was a good call.
All right, now this is not on the script. 4th and inches. Straight T formation backfield. Florence, did he get it? Very close, but I'm not sure he made the 41-yard line. Velarde, the linebacker, filled in quickly. And they are going to mark it as a 1st down. Gutsy
play. A little surprised that it was a wider running play. Take this. This isn't a straight ahead play. You can see Barker turn and hand off there to Florence. Florence does a nice job of seeing the hole inside. Penn State's pursuit was cutting off the hole to the outside. Nice job of cutting that up quickly and getting exactly what he needed for the 1st down.
So another set of downs for Northern Illinois. Out to the top of the screen, Deion Mitchell. He's a guy you're going to want to watch, number 3 this afternoon. Good quickness. This is 1st down. Barker. Not sure if it was a quarterback draw or a busted play, but Aaron Collins busted whatever play they had on. The linebacker, number 6 for Penn State.
I think it was just a nice job by Collins getting in there and putting a lot of pressure on Barker quickly, and Barker did a nice job of getting the ball back for at least a 1-yard gain. We have seen Northern Illinois take quick drops and throw quick rhythm passing so that if their offensive protection breaks down, they don't give up a lot of yardage on a sack. They give the quarterback a chance to at least make something out of it.
Watching them in practice on Thursday night, they do have a quarterback draw in their repertoire. 2nd and 9. Little play action. They had a blitz on. Completion to Talley. Tally is upended just short of the first down of the midfield marker. Good execution by Barker. Mark Tate made the stop to the sidelines. Jim Barber.
Wayne, it's interesting. You talked about how relaxed this team is. Let's go back to Joe Novak's conversation last night with his players.
You know, Jim, Penn State is one of the top 10 programs in the country, not only this year, but every year. We're not near that point. We're a brand new program, new coaching staff. Our team's still learning us, we're still learning them, and we're not hitting on all cylinders right now. But I told them this is also a great traditional place to play. It's a huge arena, great crowd, great tradition here. And I said the big thing I think for our kids is to come in here and just have a good time. Come out here and play hard for 60 minutes, enjoy the experience, because it's something they're going to remember the rest of their life.
Pretty relaxed Joe Novak so far. NIU having some fun, Wayne.
They certainly are. They're facing another fourth down, however. Scott Florence comes up just short of the first down in the nose of the football in enemy territory as far as Novak and company are concerned. Just inside the 50-yard line.
Well, I know Joe Novak was worried no matter what he told his players, are they actually going to come out and play relaxed? And they've been very effective quickly here.
Fourth down, the quick call again. Florence driving forward, very close to the first down. Collins hit him initially and tried to yank the football out of there, but Scott Florence, the senior out of New Brighton, Pennsylvania. He's the local connection, the Pennsylvania connection on the Northern Illinois squad, and he's got another first down, converts on 2 fourth-down runs.
Great job by Florence to pick up that first down. There was contact made in the offensive backfield, but he kept driving forward and got that first down all on his own. Great job. Usually see Charles Talley, who's 233 pounds in there. Florence, only 210 pounds. He's been getting the bulk of the load here.
The Huskies have had the football the first 4.5 minutes of this first quarter. On first down of the Penn State 49. Talley trying to bounce to the outside. Cornetto initially, and then Aaron Collins, the linebacker, flow to the football. And he may have lost a yard. Talley does not get off the mark very quickly. Joe Novak was telling us last night, this talented running back came back a little heavy to the fall drills, about 15 pounds over the weight they'd like to have him play at, and he's a little bit slow in getting started. Once he does get into the open field and ramble, he's tough to bring down. But
and most of his yards, Wayne, have come after contact has been made where he's broken tackles.
2nd and 11. Barker nearly intercepted, knocked down by Snyder, the defensive end. Now Northern Illinois in a position they don't want to be in, and that's 3rd and long.
Good play by Snyder. You see it's a wide receiver screen coming in from the right side. You see Barker come back. There's you see Mitchell coming underneath him. Snyder gets his hands up there and knocks that ball down. If he hadn't done that, Mitchell had a lot of room and no one else in between where he would have caught the ball and the first down yardage needed.
3rd down, about 11. Tally up the middle, and he gets about 7 yards inside the 45 to the 42-yard line. Jim Nelson, the outside linebacker, all Big Ten candidate, made the stop for Penn State, and it's a 4th down for Northern Illinois. This time they'll kick.
Nice big hole that time opened up by the offensive line. Northern Illinois doing a nice job of running right at Penn State. They don't have the team speed to outrun them on the outside, so they're just running right at them and equalizing that speed.
Kent Baker is on in punt formation. Tim Herring back deep in single safety for Penn State. Herring's going to let this one go, and into the end zone it goes, and the Nittany Lions will get it. First time this afternoon offensively out of their 20-yard line. Northern Illinois held the football, a couple of sets of downs on offense, and Wally Richardson now appears on the field for the first time this afternoon. Richardson, the senior out of Sumter, South Carolina.
We opened up the show talking about the lack of production that Penn State has gotten out of that quarterback position. Not Richardson's fault.
The Wheaties lineup, Curtis Enos leads the skill position players. Off to a great start running the football. First down, Penn State, the football to the 20-yard line of the Nittany Lions. And he is stacked up after a gain of 1. Everly, a defensive back up until a couple of weeks ago. Damian Mallory, a cornerback, made the stop for Northern Illinois. Take a look at the rest of the Wheaties lineup. Barry Telsch is the one experienced returning starter on the Penn State revamped offensive line. Slode and Everly, the backfield tandem for Penn State. Enos did not get the start here this afternoon. 2nd and 9. Richardson on play action. To the wide receiver, Joe Nastasi, for a first down out at the 35-yard line. Dwayne Hawthorne made the stop. And I tell you, Randy Wright, we're going to get a look at the Wheaties defensive lineup for Northern Illinois. Steve Rhodes, the senior up front. And the linebacking core, you're going to like Mandel Hester. He is sideline to sideline at middle linebacker. And Patrick Stephen leads this team in tackles in the secondary. 1st and 10 from the 36. Jason Slode. Good spin move to pick up about 4 out to the 40-yard line. 2nd down and 6 coming up for Penn State.
It's only the 3rd time Slode has carried the ball this year. He's coming off of an ankle injury that he hurt in the first series of their game last week against Louisville. Didn't play the rest of the game. Apparently the ankle is okay, but he's not the bulk of the ball-carrying tandem back there in the backfield.
2nd and 6 for Penn State. Everly. Good move to get out across the 45. It has a first down near the 49-yard line. Damian Mallory over to cover for Northern Illinois.
Little misdirection play here, the old counter trade that you have seen run so often lately. Everly does a nice job of waiting till his linemen get in front of him so that he can set up their blocks and read their blocks. When he does that, he hesitates in the backfield. Let those guys get in front of him. They do their job. It opens up a big hole.
William Triplett is one of the injured defenders for Northern Illinois. 2 of them are down near the 40-yard line. This is something that Joe Novak mentioned to us, more in relation to the offensive line than any other position on his ball club. He just felt that he's got a very small, thin squad here in terms of experience, and he would hate to see injuries early. That's Smith, the linebacker, Steve Smith, and William Triplett. Take a look at it again. They kind of pick each other off.
Well, you can see they're both going after the tackle right here. One comes in, they hit each other as Steve Smith hits Triplett right into the back. Both still down on the ground like that.
And we'll take a break. Penn State will have a first down when we resume. Scoreless in the first quarter at Happy Valley. On the near sidelines, and Steve Smith is still down on the field, starting outside linebacker and one of the more versatile players. Meanwhile, Curtis Enos did not start the football game in the offensive backfield for Penn State. And Jim Barber, what do you have on that story?
Talked to one of the officials on the sideline from Penn State, and the story, as we know it, Wayne, is that he had strep throat during the week, and in fact, they're going to hold him out as long as possible today, perhaps not play him. At least that's the latest word.
Well, they dip into the running back ranks and come up with Chris Eberle, who's been moving from defensive back to tailback the past couple of years.
I think that was the position Enos did last year, moved from defense over to offense, and that's where he got to start.
It's a first down for Penn State at the Nittany Lion 49. The play action Eberle. Richardson over the top to Jerevicius. Hawthorne interfered apparently near the 15-yard line. Dwayne Hawthorne had the coverage for Northern Illinois, and this is going to be a big penalty here.
Excellent call at the time. They had Northern Illinois tied up in man-to-man coverage, and Jerevicius did a nice job of breaking open. You'll see here with the play-action pass, the safety is nobody deep. Richardson does a nice job of laying the ball out in front, and Hawthorne gets that left hand up on that shoulder pad and pulls Jerevicius around. I think it was a good play by Hawthorne because it looked like Jerevicius was going to be in position to catch that ball.
Well, Penn State wide receivers coming into today's game. In the first 2 contests of the season, USC and Louisville had caught just 10 passes. Just 10 completions went to Penn State wide receivers. Well, they completed 1 and got an interference call on another. Fumble by Eberle. Covered by Northern Illinois. This is Stephen trying to take it back the other way, and Wally Richardson brings him down. Richardson and Joe Nastasi make the tackle, and another Northern Illinois, make that a Penn State Nittany Lion is down on the field now. And it's going to be Chris Eberle, the man who fumbled the football, who's shaken up. But Northern Illinois turns back Penn State, and the Huskies will start near their 13. Watch it again.
You see this hit by Hester coming up here, and it looked as though just knocks the ball right out.
Well, we told you about Mandel Hester. He makes his presence felt early. No score at Beaver Stadium. Their first offensive possession, today's Big Ten Conference game, a copyrighted telecast, Creative Sports Incorporated. And the use of the pictures, descriptions, or accounts of this broadcast without the express prior written consent of Creative Sports is prohibited. Mitchell, a man in motion, first down, Northern Illinois. Barker wanted to go to Mitchell. He turned around the other way. A little miscommunication, it looked like, Randy, between quarterback and wide receiver. Mitchell looking to the sidelines. Barker threw that more toward the inner shoulder or inner portion of the field.
That's a timing pattern. As Barker is dropping back, he turns to his left and throws the ball. You really have to know where your receiver is going to be. I don't know if Mitchell didn't go deep enough or if Barker just tried to throw the ball too hard and sailed on him, but you really have to be on the same page because it's such a timing thing.
Matt Chambers is the fullback. There's the last drive for Northern Illinois. It took better than 6 minutes in this first quarter. Again, Mitchell in motion on second down. This is Charles Talley, and he's got a hole. Talley out across the 20-yard line, close to the 21, on a gain of a little bit more than 6 yards. And Kim Herring in the deep secondary, the free safety for the Nittany Lions, made the stop.
Well, as you said, Wayne, anytime your free safety in the deep secondary is coming up and making a stop, your offensive line has done a great job of opening up a hole. And once again, NIU running right at Penn State. Their offensive line, which came in here banged up, had to replace 3 starters from last year. They're just doing a great job of giving their backs some room to run.
Third and a little bit more than 2 yards to go. Barker has protection. Pass was off the mark. Collins took down the receiver, Rashawn Smith, on the near sidelines, and it is a 4th down for Northern Illinois.
Well, that's a play if you're Brandon Barker. You can't hesitate on a 3-step drop. When you hit that 3rd step, that ball's got to be gone.
Listen to that.
Listen to that hit down there. We've seen hitting going on both sides of the ball.
Kim Herring makes a good move to the 45 and gives Penn State great field position inside the Husky 40-yard line. Rashawn Smith made the stop for Northern Illinois. No score, a little over 5 minutes to go. First quarter at Happy Valley. Jim Barber, good to have you with us on a crisp, cool September afternoon. State College, Pennsylvania, no score, first quarter. Penn State on offense for the 2nd time today. Cordell Mitchell is the new tailback, and Richardson off the play action, tried to go right down the middle to Juravis, broken up by the Huskies. Looked like Damian Mallory made the play near the 30-yard line, and it is a 2nd and 10.
Take a look from the end zone. You're going to see exactly what Wally Richardson sees, hoping that the play action freezes the linebackers. It did not. They dropped, and as they dropped and got deep, it forced Richardson to try and force the ball in there. Just wasn't enough room. You really have to count on that play action to freeze those linebackers. If not, you throw it to the back.
And number 7, Mandel Hester, was also around the football, wasn't he?
He's around the ball all the time.
2nd and 10. Mitchell picking his way, and Cordell Mitchell down to the 31-yard line to the sidelines. Jim Barber, what do you have on the injured Northern Illinois defenders?
All right, both guys trying to work things off right now, Wayne. Steve Smith has a neck burner. He's got perhaps the most extensive treatment. As for William Triplett, a contusion of the back. Again, both players being worked on, hope to return before things progress in this game.
Thank you, Jim. 3rd down. It's a little bit more than 3 yards to go, closer to 4 at the 31-yard line of Northern Illinois. Barry Telsch, the center, and here comes Wally Richardson. A little swing pass to Cordell Mitchell. Good play out on the flank made by Mukmin Mohammed, who has come in at strong safety. What they've done is they have moved Patrick Stephen to the cornerback spot in place of William Triplett, and Mukmin Mohammed, a linebacker slash safety, has come in. And he made a good play, but Penn State picks up the 1st down.
That's one of the things that Penn State's offensive coordinator Fran Ganner said they had problems scouting Northern Illinois because they would take backup players here and play them there. They had a hard time finding out who played what position, so it's something Northern Illinois is used to.
Big hole opens up here for Aaron Harris. Harris, the redshirt freshman from Exton, Pennsylvania. Damian Mallory made the stop. It is a gain of almost 10 yards.
Take a look at how this hole opens up. Once again, it's the counter trap. Aaron Harris lets his lineman come through there. Nice block that time. Great job blocking by Marsick. In a big hole, Harris looking for people to run over, continuously fighting for the yards. He was the one that played last week a lot when Slode got hurt. Had a real nice game.
They give him a gain of 10 and a first down at the 16 of Northern Illinois. Harris and Mitchell, the backfield tandem. This is Harris. Touchdown. 16-yard touchdown run, Aaron Harris. And the Nittany Lions lead it 6-0.
Nice job of blocking by the right side of Penn State's line. They've got Ostrowski in there, Marsick, and the hole was huge. Aaron Harris follows his blocking. He was helped downfield. Joe Jurevicius, a great job of blocking the corner, running him into the end zone, and that gave Aaron Harris an open lane all the way into the end zone.
We may get a look at it later on, but Penn State wide receivers do the best job downfield of blocking of any receivers in the Big Ten Conference.
That happens year after year. A real tribute to their coach.
Brett Conway for the play after it. And the Nittany Lions lead it by the score of 7-0. Late stages of this first quarter.
Take a look at this. You can see the right side just open up. Nobody there. Great job by Mitchell blocking. And then you see Jurevicius pushing his defender into the end zone towards the inside, which gives Aaron Harris the outside in the corner, which is all he needed.
So Penn State scores with 4:15 to go. This is the first quarter. They've had two offensive possessions, one resulting in a fumble, and the other in the end zone. I think Joe likes the second result a lot better than the first, to say the least.
And if you're Northern Illinois, that first drive, those 15 scripted plays worked very, very well. They had a 14-play drive that took over 6 minutes off the clock. Then when they ran out of that script was when their offense sputtered.
Yeah, what do you do now?
I go back to play one.
Go back to first play of the script.
Go back to the script and go to play one.
You know somebody upstairs on the Penn State side would figure it out after about 2 plays. They'd say, wait a minute, they're back to the script, guys.
We've seen this before.
Conway getting sent to boot it away.
Well, the best thing the Husky offense can do for their defense is to keep the ball so their defense doesn't have to go right back out there.
Conway, good leverage and depth again. I'd say kicks it beyond the end zone. Let's head back to the Big Ten studio for an update. Mike Gleason.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. 7-0 here in favor of Penn State. And what has kept Northern Illinois in this ball game? 2 factors. Number one, a time-consuming opening drive of almost 6-7 minutes. And the second was the turnover by Penn State on State's first possession of the afternoon offensively. First down from the 20-yard line for the Huskies of Northern Illinois. Barker. From behind, Fornattle on the tackle. Matt Fornattle, the junior from Bethel Park, Pennsylvania.
Looked as though Barker had enough time to get the ball off. Good coverage downfield forced Barker to hold on to the ball. Fornattle coming in. He steps up right there. Just doesn't get rid of it. Tries to run. Nice job by Fornattle. Still fighting off the blocker. Being able to make the sack with his left arm. They say of all the defensive linemen, in fact, the entire front 7, Fornattle may be the hardest worker of all of them.
Second and long. Mitchell, a man in motion. Blitz is on. Talley tried a high step through it, but Jim Nelson made the stop after a gain of 3. So it leaves a 3rd and 11 for Northern Illinois.
When you've got the ball back on your own 15-yard line and you run a draw like that, Penn State's going to be content to make the tackle after a 3 or 4-yard gain. They don't want you to bust that draw or screen or some kind of deceptive play into a 15-yarder.
3rd and 11. Give to Chambers. Good move up the middle, and Chambers close to the first down, just short of the 30-yard line. Tim Herring made the stop, along with Jim Nelson, both in the secondary. And a good cross-up call there.
We just talked about that trick, deceptive type of play. This is just a very quick-hitting trap play right here. See the guard come down, opens up the hole. Filardi gets blocked out of the way. And then you have Chambers one-on-one with the free safety fighting for those extra yards. Nice job of picking that up.
And the punt unit is on. Baker. It's a high kick away into the sun. Herring with a fair catch signal. Penn State will put it in play at the 43-yard line in Nittany Lion territory. 2:23 to go in this first quarter, and another Nittany Lion is down on the field. And I believe, let's see, it looks like Eric Sturtevant, a freshman, down on the field for Penn State.
He's a true freshman linebacker that Penn State is very, very high on. They've got some seniors playing in front of him, although Jim Nelson is just a junior. They're very experienced in the linebacking core, and they believe Sturtevant is a true freshman. Is going to be a real player. They really wanted to get a look at him today, and this may change those plans.
Discus Athletics salutes the superior performances of these student athletes both on and off the field. Discus Athletic is proud to be associated with the outstanding versatility that makes these players unique. For Penn State, Wally Richardson, senior quarterback, 3.24. Grade point average in administration of justice, a 3-time academic All-American. And for Northern Illinois, Patrick Stephen, a sophomore strong safety, a perfect 4.0 GPA in liberal arts and sciences, NIU Victory Scholar Academic Excellence Program. Congratulations to those two young athletes. So Sturtevant, as I mentioned, blocked a punt last week, heads off the field. And it'll be Penn State on a first down. Football out near the 44. Eberly and Harris, a young backfield behind Richardson. Trying to get it to Juravicius. Just off his fingertips, set out of play anyway down the sidelines. And that was William Triplett on the coverage. Good to see him back in the lineup after he was shaken up earlier this afternoon.
Good call by Penn State to go right after Triplett. He just comes back on the field after being hurt. They run Juravicius right by him. Richardson's got to keep the ball on the field, though. You can't give your receiver a chance to make the catch if you throw the ball out of bounds. Throw that ball, which you tried to, 3-4 yards inbounds, so your receiver's got room to adjust to it.
It's a couple of times we've seen Juravicius break free a little bit and pass just off the mark. Not by much. It doesn't take much for an incompletion. Mitchell. Pulled down from behind by Damian Mallory, and that might have been a touchdown-saving tackle. Cordell Mitchell, redshirt freshman, Syracuse, New York.
See a big hole open up here on the left-hand side. Aaron Mitchell, great job coming through there as fullback. That's the block when you run the ISO run. You ISO your fullback on your linebacker. If he makes the block, it's going to be a successful play. That time, great job.
From the 42-yard line. On a first down, Penn State. Richardson, the short drop and the quick throw high of the mark. Intended for Joe Nastasi. Dwayne Hawthorne, the coverage of the 40-yard line.
When you throw short passes, it doesn't take much if you're off for it to be incomplete. You see Richardson there throwing. Nobody's going to get hit. The ball's too high. Nastasi's got to go up for it. You got to get that ball down. But that goes somewhat to the fact I think Richardson doesn't quite have the confidence that he had last year. You try and throw everything perfectly. You try and aim it. You don't just wing it off your arm. The ball becomes a little more inaccurate.
Well, he had veteran receivers. Bobby Ingram now with the Chicago Bears. Freddie Scott was the other wide receiver here. Mitchell breaking free. Good tough run. Broke 2 tackles to get down near the first down. At about the 31-yard line, gain of almost 10 yards. Patrick Stephen made the stop, and in fact, he did gain 10 yards to a first down.
One thing Joe Novak told us he really needed to concentrate or have his team concentrate on was tackling. They can't afford to miss tackles. That time, Mitchell does a nice job of breaking those tackles, but had Northern Illinois wrapped him up, it would have been a gain of maybe nothing or a very, very short gain.
Well, the officials apparently aren't as confident as I am that it's a first down, and they've called for the chains to check it out and make sure. But it is a first down by the length of the football at the 31-yard line of Northern Illinois. Joe Novak He was part of the coaching staff under Bill Mallory at Northern Illinois back in 1983. They won the Cal Bowl and had one of the most memorable seasons in Northern Illinois football history. Joe followed Coach Mallory down to Indiana and did a fine job with the defense down in Bloomington.
We sure are happy to have him back in Northern Illinois, and I think he's going to do a great job with that program. Just a first-class guy.
No question about it. First down, Penn State at the Husky 31. Good move by Mitchell in the backfield. Mitchell down to the 19-yard line on a gain of 12. Patrick Stevens, the safety, made the stop.
Once again, Northern Illinois linebacker Steve Smith has a chance. You see the hole open here. Mitchell gets the ball. Watch Smith right there. He's got a chance to make the tackle in the backfield, but doesn't do it. And when you've got a linebacker that comes through unblocked and misses the tackle, there aren't going to be many other people there until you get into the secondary, and that leads to a real big game.
Cordell Mitchell knows what he's doing out there. Rushed for over 4,000 yards in his high school career. First down, Penn State of the 19. Richardson under a blitz. Good throw. Juravicius, touchdown. Little slant pattern run by Juravicius. I believe he did it inside the coverage of the linebacker Smith, Randy, and that popped wide open. And Penn State leads 13-0.
Northern Illinois was coming with a corner blitz, and it was excellent footwork by Richardson to fake to the right, turn, and throw that ball on rhythm. That had to be such a quick action timing pattern. You don't have time to think of what can go wrong. You make your fake, you turn, you whip that ball right in there. Watch Richardson. He fakes to the right, he turns, he knows, and he just whips it right there. Nice job by Juravicius to hold on to that ball. You saw Damian Mallory too far off of Juravicius to react that quickly. Nice, very well executed play.
Conway's extra point is good, and Penn State has put 2 touchdowns on the board here in the first 15 minutes of this ball game. 51 seconds to go in this first quarter, and it's 14-0 Nittany Lions. Well, when they blitzed the corner, that left linebacker coverage initially, and once Juravicius cut inside of that coverage, he had Mallory, but Mallory was not in a position to break that up.
No, not at all. When you've got Mallory from his free safety position going towards the sideline because he's trying to disguise the blitz, and then you have Juravicius coming to the inside, one's coming one way, the other's going the other way with their momentum, and that was why Mallory couldn't react in time to make any kind of play on it.
Let's go back to the sideline. Jim Barber, what do you have for us?
All right, Wayne, you were talking about that fine linebacker, Eric Sturdivant. They are working on his right knee right now. They have taped the area just directly below that. He's in a lot of pain. They've applied ice to the right knee. We'll try to get an update as the day progresses.
Thank you, Jim. Joe Juravicius, touchdown pass of 19 yards. From Wally Richardson.
Tony Richardson's second touchdown pass this year. He had 18 last year. Only a second so far this year.
Mitchell will have no chance to get this one. It's out of play. Well, the other factor on Wally Richardson, Randy, and maybe this is kind of points out the discomfort the quarterback has felt in the opening weeks of the season. And he's been a little bit dinged up. He's had a groin muscle injury. But he threw 6 interceptions all of last year. Coming into today, in the first 2 games of this season, he has thrown 4 interceptions already.
Well, as you said, he's been banged up. He had a some people may say, well, it doesn't affect the way you throw the ball. It really does, because of the way you plant your foot. You tend to throw the ball a little more inaccurately when you can't get your feet right under you. He's also, because of his lack of protection, he's getting rid of the ball a little quicker than he'd like to. That's led to some of those interceptions.
Parker may be changing the play at the line. Lawrence trying to go wide, waiting for his blocking, and then he is gobbled up at the line of scrimmage. From behind, Chris Snyder, the fine defensive end. Brandon Noble, the defensive tackle, helped us stack that up. Noble, all Big Ten, All-America candidate.
This is an excellent job by Matt Fernandel, number 99. He goes to the outside right there, forces the play to be cut back up by Florence, and when he cuts it up, then you've got all your pursuit coming from the backside. Great play by Fernandel.
Second down, it's about 9 yards to go. Lawrence had the blocking stacked up right in front of him. He tried to plow straight ahead behind Keith Schulte, but Schulte was backed up right into him. And he may have lost a yard back to the 20. Third down coming up. Time winding down to this first quarter. And the 1 period complete. Beaver Stadium, State College, Pennsylvania. The Northern Illinois Huskies trail the Penn State Nittany Lions 14-0. Curtis Enos, he has not played here today. Has had a strep throat during the week. Probably missed a little practice time, although from what the coaches told us, that's you'd have to chain him down to keep him off the practice field. He loves to play and practice. And Curtis Enos, they were telling us a story when he was, what, 10 years old and attending one of their camps here at Penn State. He would get up early in the morning, be out running and jogging, and by the time he'd come back to the dorm room, the coaches were just getting up for breakfast.
They love to talk about him because he's the kind of player every coach wants to coach. He just loves football.
Long count by Barker, almost threw Snyder off sides. This is Talley in the open field, and he punishes Kim Herring for a first down, gain of 11 to the 31.
Good protection that time for Brandon Barker, and he had a chance to look over the field. Everything covered downfield. Came to a secondary receiver, and Talley did a nice job of getting him the ball early enough so Talley could catch it and then turn upfield, get his momentum going forward, and then when contact was made, he could fall forward just enough to pick up the first down.
First down for the Huskies of Northern Illinois at the Northern Illinois 31-yard line. Mitchell, the man in motion. Talley back right, to bounce it to the outside and then turn it back inside, and it's maybe a yard out to the 32-yard line. And the inside running game worked effectively on the first two drives of this ball game for Northern Illinois, but it appears Penn State, Randy, has made an adjustment.
Penn State has made some good adjustments, and every good defense will do so. They brought their defensive tackles down to the inside and their defensive ends down a little bit to make that a much tougher block. Northern Illinois needs to counter by running to the outside, but they don't have the speed at the tailback position to outrun those linebackers.
Barker, quick throw over the middle, tried to hit Mitchell, threw it behind him, and that's a dangerous pass. When the receiver doesn't catch that, generally a defensive back will. 3rd and 9 coming up now for Northern Illinois. And since the first drive of this ball game, Northern Illinois has been facing 3rd and long more often than not.
And it makes it a lot tougher because the defense knows what you're going to do. More importantly, that defensive front four can fire off thinking you're going to pass. It puts a lot more pressure on an already beat up Northern Illinois offensive line.
Brandon Barker out of Amarillo, Texas. 1 of 6 on 3rd downs is Northern Illinois. Talley, not even close. Sean Lee made the stop for Penn State along with Gerald Filardi. Back to the Big Ten studio, Mike Gleason. Punt formation time. Kent Baker to Kim Herring. This one takes a Northern Illinois bounce. Rashawn Smith has it covered. No return, and the Nittany Lions will start at their 23-yard line. Early going, second quarter. Penn State by 2 scores. Wayne Larrabee, Randy Wright, and Jim Barber. And let's get down to the sidelines. Jim Barber.
Thank you, Wayne. Potentially a big story brewing with Curtis Enos, the star running back at Penn State. As you know, he has not played. He's been on the sidelines. The story we hear, he was in the hospital earlier this week, Wednesday night. It's unconfirmed, but a couple of reports floating around, a couple of rumors, is that he was tested for mono. Officials we talked to say they don't know what's wrong with him. Perhaps we'll know more as the game progresses, Wayne.
Story gets deeper and deeper as this game goes on. Thought it was a strep throat to begin with. Joe Nastasi in motion. Jackie Fields is the new tailback, and this is Mr. Fields. Out to the 27-yard line on a gain of about 4. Over to make the tackle, Will Ford for Northern Illinois. Terrell Alexander, a junior from Chicago Heights, Illinois, also in on that stop.
Coming into today's game, Penn State wanted to do a couple things offensively. Number 1, get that offensive line settled and get it in order. Number 2, that will lead to a successful running game. That will help. Number 3, Wally Richardson gain some confidence throwing the ball.
Second down. Juravicius in the flat. One-on-one with Hawthorne. Stiff arms his way by him. Still on his feet. Good build around Hester and down to the 40-yard line. Will Ford made the stop. There is a penalty marker down. Dan Stankowski also in on that tackle. Joe Juravicius on a big gainer.
The best way to build confidence in your quarterback throw some high percentage short passes and let those receivers make the play. Little quick screen out here to the wideout, just a one-man screen, and let him go one-on-one with a cornerback that's 10 yards off of him. We talked earlier about missed tackles. Look at all these missed tackles on Northern Illinois' part. Already seen 3 or 4, and to top it off,
there's the penalty.
They're going to get the penalty right there, which is going to tack yards on for it.
So they tack on about 5 yards. Face mask penalty. That was a 30-yard pass play.
Just an excellent individual effort by Joe Jurevicius.
First down, just inside the 35 of the Huskies. Jeffy Fields. Good cutback move as he got inside of Steve Smith. And the tackle made by Damian Mallory.
Wayne, I would say if their #1 objective, Penn State's offense, was to get their offensive line intact in order to open up and continue the running success they've had, so far I think they've accomplished that.
Pick up on that play of about 8 yards. Second down for Penn State. Fields and Harris are the backfield tandem behind Richardson. Harris, first down and more. Aaron Harris to the 10-yard line of Northern Illinois. Gain of 12. Will Ford came back from the defensive line to make the stop in pursuit.
Look at this line open up those holes. They're sealing off the entire front 7 from Northern Illinois, making sure nobody there gets contact, putting a lot of pressure on those defensive backs.
Damian Mallory, a defensive back, also in on that tackle. First down for Penn State. First and goal to go. Fields. Good cutback behind the block by Ostrowski. Fields gets a couple of yards. Will Ford again in on the stop for Northern Illinois. Second down coming up.
What should happen, Wayne, is you get closer to the goal line, your linebackers, your defensive backs, they can take a couple of steps closer to the line of scrimmage and react to the run a little quicker. Makes it a little harder for those linemen and backs to get onto their block because they don't have as much room. So we should see Northern Illinois' defense tighten up against the run.
Jeffy Fields is at the top of your screen. He comes in motion on second down. Aaron Harris. Still on his feet. To the doorstep. Then turned away. It'll be third and goal coming up for Penn State. Pickup of about 6 or 7 yards. And Debbie Parsons, the leading tackler on the defensive line for Northern Illinois, made the stop.
Look at the hole open up here, but also take a look at the Northern Illinois players that have a shot at him right there. A couple of them right there just miss. Hester misses and Ford misses. They have to make that tackle when they get a chance to in the backfield.
Third down and goal to go just outside the 1. Slow to the fullback in motion. Fields follows his blocking to the end zone for the touchdown. Again, he went behind Phil Ostrowski, the long guard, as they call it. And Penn State in the end zone for the third time this afternoon with 10:08 to go in the second quarter. The Nittany Lions leading 20-0.
You see it coming right at you here. Great block by Olsemer, the tight end, clearing out that linebacker. And then Fields just gets in there on his own. Nice job of blocking, nice job of running.
Conway for the point after. Conway has made 89 consecutive point after touchdowns. His last miss was against Rutgers in '94. Penn State with the power running game in effect here today. Back in Happy Valley, the foothill of Mount Nittany. And that, by the way, is not Mount Nittany. That's the local ski area of these parts. We'll get you Mount Nittany before the day is done, but 95,000 come in here to Beaver Stadium to watch the Penn State Nittany Lions, and they start coming in on Friday afternoon. There's the scoring drive. 77 yards in 7 plays.
6 runs out of 7 plays, and they were making a living running behind Barry Tilch, Phil Ostrowski, and Pete Marzik. They really did a nice job opening up those holes. Penn State sticking on the right side of their offensive line.
Again, they kick it deep, this time into the wind, and this young Conway kid's got a great leg, doesn't he?
He's been consistent and good for a long time, and looks like he's going to continue.
Brett Conway seems like he's been here almost as long as Joe Paterno, doesn't it?
I don't know
he's moving
anybody's been anywhere as long as Joe Paterno.
I certainly haven't been anywhere as long as Joe Paterno. Brett Conway, 6th all-time Penn State scoring history with 29 field goals. And as I mentioned, 89 consecutive extra points. So Northern Illinois will try to put together a drive here. Their first drive went into Penn State territory, but since then, they've come up empty. Barker to the air, being rushed by Snyder. Barker better get rid of it. He loses it. Picked up by Tate. Touchdown, Penn State. Well, that's how the route happens. Penn State motors in for 3 scores offensively, then a defensive turnover and a score off of that turnover.
Well, you have to feel as a quarterback where the pressure is coming from. Barker knows it's coming from the right. He comes out to his left. You have to tuck that ball away when you make the commitment to run. Tuck it under your arm. That way it's not hanging out there in your hand, and somebody from behind can make that swat and knock the ball loose.
So Mark Tate picks up the fumble by the quarterback, Brandon Barker, and motors into the end zone to give Penn State a 27-0 lead. And now Brett Conway again. And Penn State, with 4 scores here in the first half, has a 28-0 lead over Northern Illinois. Joe Paterno's team getting it going on both sides of the football. Fumble. Take a look at this. This is an illustration as to why these games turn into routes. Brandon Barker's a skill position player. He's a quarterback. He should be able to run away from a defensive lineman, but look at Snyder pursuing from behind. Barker running as hard as he can. Snyder catches him from behind, strips the football. Tate, Johnny on the spot, rambles in from 21 yards out, and that's one of the reasons why the score is 28-0 Penn State.
Well, you've got a Chris Snyder at 6'3", 250 pounds, running down a quarterback at 6'1", 192 pounds. You're 58 pounds heavier, but yet you can catch him from behind.
It gives you an indication of the kind of athletic ability that a school like Penn State has in the trench. Forget about the skill position, people. You expect that there, but in the trenches, these Big Ten schools have some great talent. Conway booting from right to left, and the wind got the first kick of this one. And didn't get nearly the hang time nor the distance that Conway would like.
Northern Illinois, that last possession, even though it was only the one play, they came out in an offensive formation, 3 wide receivers, try and spread the field a little bit, loosen up what Penn State has done defensively, stacking the middle to take away that inside running game, if they've just got to execute it. So I think their game plan approach, at least on that drive, was okay.
Line drive kick. Deion Mitchell allows it to bound into the end zone, and Northern will take over at the 20-yard line. To the sidelines, and Jim Barber. Jimmy?
Thank you, Wayne. This is kind of neat. Joe PA is Joe Paterno, and in a presidential year, it's Joe, 96 for 96. And these guys here, Lee and Sean and Rich and Mike, well, they put their names on here so they get on television. I guess it worked.
Well, I understand Ross Perot has a spot on his ticket open, doesn't he still? I'm not sure if he's designated a VP candidate. Joe may want to do that, you know. I mean, after all, Joe could still coach football and be vice president. First down for Northern Illinois. Now a little option. Barker keeps it himself, and the option closes. A loss of 1. Aaron Collins, the outside linebacker, over to make the play.
Anytime as an outside linebacker, when the opposing team is running the option, when you can stretch that out, the farther you stretch it out, the closer that sideline comes into play, and you've done a nice job. This is Aaron Collins. He is a linebacker that Penn State asks to do everything. They have him cover wide receivers, cover running backs. He rushes. He does everything. They are really, really happy with his performance.
Talley and Chambers are the running backs, and Barker on 2nd and 11. Nice throw over the middle. Fumbled by the wide receiver, Leon Moody. Recovered on the play by Penn State. Prater made the hit. And it's a first down. Shino Prater.
You'll see Shino Prater here, man-to-man, just following him down. He sees the pass come down there, comes up, just wraps his arm around there, knocks it right out of Moody's hands. As a receiver, you're going over the middle. You have to expect to get hit. You have to tuck that ball away.
The senior linebacker, Gerald Filardi, made the recovery at the Northern Illinois 31-yard line. Penn State on offense, leading 28-0. Second quarter. Slowed is the fullback, Fields the tailback. Chappie Fields this time met at the pass. Alexander in on that stop. And Mendel Hester.
Wayne, if you're Joe Novak, you had to like what you saw early in the game. Some sharp execution, some crisp tackling. The last couple of drives, whether it be his offense or his defense, you've seen some fumbles, you've seen missed tackles, you've seen the kind of things that you hate to see fundamentally as a head coach. And it's happened here in the first half.
Chris Campbell is the wide receiver to the top of your screen. Fields gets the call up the middle. Nice spin move, and Chappie Fields inside the 30 to the 26-yard line on a gain of about 4. Mendel Hester made the stop. Hester, 12 total tackles, 4 solos, 2 tackles behind the line last week in the loss to Western Illinois. A very disappointing loss for Joe Novak and his program at home against Western.
He thought last week that they got beat by a better team on that day, but that they play them and they play up to their ability. They're a better team. He was disappointed in the effort that his team gave.
Third down. Wide open, Jason Slode. Got a good block off the flank by the wide receiver, Corey Jones, and Slode has it just inside the 11-yard line. Rayshawn Jackson forced him out of play, and it's a first down.
But when you get a team thinking inside run, it's easy to slip a back into the flat. And this is exactly what Slode does. He comes out there, nobody's there. Look at Corey Jones, another wide receiver for Penn State, making an effective block downfield.
About a 14-yard gain for Penn State. They lead 28-0. We have just under 8 minutes to go, first half. Corey Jones in motion. Long count by Richardson. Chappie Fields, touchdown.
Penn State's had so much success running to the right side. Northern Illinois made a couple of quick adjustments, and now Penn State, same type of plays, same result, side of their line.
So Penn State with Curtis Enos on the bench. And there's Curtis, number 39 right there. A little bit under the weather this week, we understand, and they haven't missed a beat, have they? And he needs this for 200 points in his career. So the milestone for Brett Conway. Penn State adds to its lead 35-0 over Northern Illinois. Chappie Fields, a redshirt freshman from Philadelphia, smells Pater. And is happy today. Penn State leading 35-0, looking very good offensively, especially in the ground game, Randy. And again, playing without Curtis Enos, who was sick earlier this week. He is in uniform. They're going to try to hold him out today. They could be able to accomplish that. Conway's kickoff. This one might be returned by Deion Mitchell. And here it comes. Boy, he hits that hole hard and followed the wedge out across the 25 to the 27-yard line. Ascari Adams made the stop for Penn State. Deion Mitchell is a little sophomore out of Fort Wayne, Indiana, and he has some big play capability for Northern Illinois if they can get the ball into his hands. But that's the first time he's touched it here today.
And that has to start with protection for your quarterback. But as you said, Deion Mitchell, Joe Novak says he's the best player on the team. And the next thing out of his mouth is he loves to play. It's amazing how those guys that love to play the game generally do a pretty good job.
First down out of the 27-yard line. Brandon Barker at The swing pass out to Charles Talley. And the tackle made by Aaron Collins.
Second down.
Second down coming up. Looked to be a gain of about 6 yards.
Good little pass play that time. A little play action in the backfield. Throw it out into your flat. Get it in front of your back so when he catches it, he's still moving forward. You're down 35-0. You don't try and get it all back on one play. You just try and get something going for your offense. The last several drives been very ineffective. Just try and get something positive to work on.
Mitchell's in the slot at the bottom of your screen. This is Talley trying to bruise it up the middle and a little bit of a slant to the left. He got a yard to the 34. In the mid portion of that Penn State defense, equal to the task. Brandon Noble was there. Also in on that stop, Courtney Brown, a true freshman from Alvin, South Carolina. Penn State will play several true freshmen here this afternoon. I guess just a sign of the times, Randy, with the scholarship limits and whatnot.
Well, when you have so many good true freshmen and so many players are leaving early to go into the pros, if you don't play them early, you lose the year completely.
Third and about 3. Deflected up by Courtney Brown. It is 4th down, Northern Illinois.
Sometimes defensively, you just have the right defense called for the right play. Here you see Penn State coming with their linebackers on the outside, and yet you've got a 3-step drop. When you're blitzing everybody on the outside like that, you just don't have room as a quarterback to get it through.
Baker's punt. Backing up deep is Chris Campbell, and he lets it tear him into the end zone, and Penn State will take over at their 20-yard line, leading 35-0 with 6:18 to go, second quarter.
After a first couple of drives where Northern Illinois had some success against a Penn State defense that was outstanding, that defense has gotten back to its previous 2-game form and totally shut down Northern Illinois.
Penn State up to the line of scrimmage. Got a first down coming up at the 20-yard line. Campbell in motion. This time, Evie Parsons makes the stop on Cordell Mitchell. A loss of 1, but a penalty marker down. McQuarrie is in at quarterback for Penn State, so the backup, Mike McQuarrie.
As often happens, you put a new quarterback in there, he's got a different cadence, a different count. Somebody on the offense can move, get you a 5-yard penalty.
David Whitvote is the referee, and he has made the announcement, a legal procedure against Penn State, turned down by Northern Illinois, a loss of almost 2 yards on that play. Makes his presence felt on that attempt by Cordell Mitchell. Listen to this.
Third down.
That was a groan in addition to the sound of the hit, the groan of 95,000 who felt that hit.
That's when, as a quarterback, you hear it, you're standing 2 yards away from it, and you just go over to him and say, better you than me.
Yeah, I guess so. Loss of 3 on that. This is a 15-yard play they need. And they've got it. Sliding grab. Corey Jones on the pass from Mike McQuarrie. First down and more. Yes, they got 19 yards out to the 34.
Nice throw there by Mike McQuarrie. This is the kind of quarterback that maybe isn't as flashy, maybe isn't as polished as Wally Richardson. They call him a drill sergeant on the field, a Joe Cap type of quarterback, but says he's very, very popular. They just love him here, his teammates, his coaches, and very, very capable backup quarterback.
Brad Gander said he's a redhead, and he acts like a redhead.
I was going to let you say that one.
Split backs, and Aaron Harris gets about 4 yards out near the 38-yard line. Patrick Stephen came into the play and made the stop along with Steve Rhodes on the defensive line for Northern Illinois. This Mike McQuarrie, a fiery youngster, backup quarterback last year to Wally Richardson. He's got junior eligibility, so he could be the starter next year. We'll see. They've got some talented young signal callers, a couple of which they're trying to hold out this season. Second down for Penn State. Mitchell. Out across the 40, short of the first down on a gain of about 3 or 4 yards. Back to the Big Ten studio, Mike Gleason.
Okay, Wayne, Ole Miss is on the board again.
Coming up in 4 minutes to go, first half. Penn State leading 35-0, and the Nittany Lions on 3rd down and about 4 at the 41-yard line. McQuarrie off play action. And he's got the first down. Good second effort. Anthony Cleary, a fullback. Steve Smith, the linebacker, tried to pull him back, but unable to do so. And Penn State gets another first down.
Nice job by McQuarrie. Sitting back in the pocket, had plenty of time looking downfield, but instead of forcing something downfield, comes off of his primary targets and hits Cleary with just enough for a first down. Good play by McQuarrie with a guy without a lot of experience to know his progression and follow his progression.
Cordell Mitchell. This time they met him on the flank. Mukmin Mohammed in on that tackle, along with Terrell Alexander. Second down coming up. Gain of about 3 out to the 48.
If you're on the Husky defense, Wayne, you're seeing player after player running at you, whether it's Cordell Mitchell or Chaffee Fields or Chris Eberly. And they just reload and keep coming, and you're not even facing the best one back there in Ferguson.
That's right. Second down. McQuarrie's got it off the play action under a blitz. McQuarrie nabbed by Ebby Parsons for a loss of about 3. Back to the 45, where it'll be a 3rd down for Penn State.
Not near as much time for McQuarrie back here. Little play action doesn't really fool anybody. You see the pressure coming from the left side there. As he tries to step up and run into his own man, the entire pocket just collapses. And Northern Illinois got a little spark here on defense. They've been tackling very well and consistently getting into the backfield to get into McQuarrie's face.
3rd down, about 10. McQuarrie may have to get it himself. Mandel Hester makes the stop. Ebby Parsons also helped to flush him around the corner. It is a gain of a couple of yards out near the 47, and a fine defensive stand for Northern Illinois. Penn State forced into punt formation.
Big difference this time. They put pressure on the quarterback, and they made their tackles. They didn't miss tackles, which would take 4 or 5-yard runs into 10 and 12-yard runs.
Lessons learned by the quarterback is Joe Paterno. Make sure he is aware. Darrell Pena. Fair catch signal made by Leon Moody, straddling the 20-yard line. First down just across the 20 at the 21-yard line for Northern Illinois. Here are your Amoco Big Ten leaders. Amoco, you expect more from a leader. Alex Smith at Indiana leading the rushing race. Curtis Enos not playing here today, but getting over 170 yards a game rushing. Pepe Pearson may be the next great running back at Ohio State, huh?
We saw him last week. As you see Enos right here not playing today, and maybe a little uncertain for the next couple of weeks until we find out exactly what's wrong with him.
Jim Barber reported that the rumor is he might have been treated in the hospital for mono, but that's unsubstantiated as of now. Good tough run by the best running back we've seen from Northern Illinois, Scott Florence. He's the guy who's been getting to the hole a lot quicker. Aaron Gatton made the stop on the play.
That's what Northern Illinois needs. Talley is a much bigger back, doesn't have quite the acceleration, though he's got more power. What they need with the speed they're going against with Penn State's defense is a back that's going to hit that hole as quickly as you can. That's what Florence gives them, more so than what Talley does.
A lot of backup people on the field now for Penn State as they shift their defense up front on a first down. Here's Florence. Nice cutback move, and Florence out across the 35 to near the 38-yard line. Looked to be a gain of 7 yards. Jim Nelson made the stop for Penn State. So Northern Illinois trying to get something going here, facing a 3rd down, or I should say a 2nd down coming up, and about 4 yards to go.
And doing it a little differently, Wayne. Couple of sweeps, running to the outside, getting some blockers in front of him, and letting Florence cut back. Early in the game, everything they did was in between the tackles.
Time winding down to this first half. Florence going wide. Once again, Nelson responds on the play for Penn State. Maurice Daniels also there. Gain of maybe a yard, leaving a 3rd down coming up. 44 seconds left to go in the half. Don't forget at halftime, we'll be returning to the Big Ten studios. Mike Gleason, Timeout taken by Northern Illinois. They're starting to move the football here and get a little momentum. And Joe Novak wants to see if he can work something here in the waning seconds of this first half.
I just saw a shot of Scott Florence there. 3 straight carries, some good yardage to show for it. And he may have wanted that timeout. He's a little tired taking some hits out there.
A little winded, huh?
He's taking his time, not really running over here with anything with great enthusiasm. So he needs a little break right here.
Well, Scott Florence going to be joined in the backfield by Charles Talley. One thing about Talley, he's a good-sized kid. He's 6 feet and over 230 pounds. And he's a guy who will probably, if he plays on the next level, play at the fullback spot rather than a tailback position.
I think that he probably does not have the speed to play at the tailback position, as you said. And he needs to be able to play at the fullback position. What he may need to adjust more than anything is his willingness and ability to block, because you have to be a good blocker to play fullback.
3rd down for Northern Illinois. It's about 3 yards to go. Talley is the up back in the eye. There's the play action in Barker. Quick swing, and that's Talley on the flank. He's got a first down. Out to the 46-yard line. Maurice Daniels made the stop for Penn State.
Nice job by Barker again. The way he throws the ball in front of the back, running away from him. If he throws that ball at the back or behind him at all, it's going to be incomplete, or at the very least, it's going to slow the back down to where he's going to be tackled short of the first down. When you throw that ball in front of the back, running into the flat, you hit him in stride, he catches it, he turns right up, his momentum is going forward. More times than not, he's going to pick up that first down.
And he got 6 yards on the play. Northern Illinois now out of timeouts. Remember, they took one early when on a 4th down play. They were late in getting some of their personnel into the ball game. That was on the first drive of the game. And don't forget, coming up at halftime, Mike Gleason of the Big Ten studio gets you updated on all that's happening in college football. Jim Barber will be chatting, hopefully, with Joe Paterno down in the field right before we go to the studio. Scores and highlights. Get the latest on Curtis Enos, hopefully from the head man of the Penn State Nittany Lions himself. Curtis Enos, also the Heisman frontrunner.
Talking about the Heisman in September.
Yeah.
You say you don't win it in September, but you can lose it in September.
You sure can lose it, that's for sure. First down, Barker to the sideline. And he's got his man out there making the catch, and that's Leon Moody, very close to the first down of the Penn State 44.
Nice throw that time by Barker. Threw it early enough to where the receiver could adjust. Doesn't have to be a perfect pass if it's timed well.
Anthony King made the stop. It's a first down. Barker, without any timeouts remaining, kills the clock by grounding the football. 21 seconds to go. So Brandon Barker working against now mostly second string and backup Penn State defenders. But I'll tell you what, these are talented youngsters who are redshirt freshmen mostly, and some juniors and sophomores.
If you're on the field in major college football, you've got a fair amount of talent. And as you said, when you're going against Penn State second and third stringers, there's an awful lot of talent out there. And what you want if you're Joe Novak, no matter who you line up against, just execute. Let's get better. This is the 3rd game of his coaching tenure at Northern Illinois as a head coach, and he just has told his team, let's improve from one week to the next week. No matter who we play, no matter what we do, let's get better every week. And he's looking for execution and for heart and desire. Even though he's down 35-0, he's going to be able to tell a lot about what makes up his team with the way they play the rest of this game, because he's going to be able to build on that one way or another and get the attitude that he wants instilled in his entire team.
Well, you know, he mentioned to us last night that when he took over the program in the spring, practice was basically a period where they flushed out those who weren't willing to give the kind of effort you're talking about, Randy. And it took a lot of that. There was some attrition, as there usually is when a coaching change is made. And by the time they got to the fall practice, they were basically starting from scratch. So what most teams do is put in a lot of their offense and defense and set things up in the spring for the fall. And in this case, basically, it was a feeling out period in the spring, and they started from square one in the fall, and that's part of the reason why Northern Illinois is off to such a slow start this season. 2nd and 10 now for Brandon Barker. Barker going over the top. Got the man open, Rashawn Smith, and he's out of bounds at the first down. Stick on the near sidelines at the 34-yard line. David Macklin forced him out of the near side, and it's a first down on a gain of 10.
Excellent throw by Barker this time. Watch him as he hits his 5th step. The ball is in the air. He doesn't gather his feet. He throws it early enough to where when Smith catches it, he's got plenty of room to come down inbounds. When you are throwing a 12-yard out route, when your quarterback hits that 5th step, that ball's got to be gone or your receiver's going to run out of room.
23 seconds to go, first half. Parker again going over the top. Over-the-shoulder attempt is made, and the pass incomplete. Deion Mitchell pretty well covered by Anthony King. Also had Derek Fox in the neighborhood.
You know, Wayne, it was excellent coverage, but Barker gave his receiver Mitchell an opportunity to catch the ball. He threw it in the only place where he could. He's given his receiver a chance to come down with it. Earlier, we saw Wally Richardson throw a couple of those out of bounds. No matter what the coverage is, your receiver's got no chance. Excellent throw by Barker that time.
Under 20 seconds to go, first half. Second down, Barker. Mitchell looked to the sidelines. That pass thrown downfield fell incomplete at the 5-yard line. Mitchell made his turn at the 15, Randy, and again, you wonder when you see a play like that, maybe some miscommunication.
I think Barker just tried to get rid of that ball very early because of the pressure coming up front. Didn't have a good feel for where Mitchell was going to make his cut. I think he just threw it away because there was a big risk. If you throw that out route and you're not sure, there's a good chance it's going to go the other way.
So it is a third down and 10. Football to the 33-yard line of Penn State for Northern Illinois. And Barker looking to the short side of the field. And he's got his tight end, Reed, Bobby Reed, the sophomore out of Oak Lawn, Illinois. Clint Cease, the defensive end, came over on the coverage. And it is fourth down. They're calling the field goal unit on. As time expires in this first half. So Northern Illinois, without any timeouts, unable to get the field goal unit on the field in time. And let's send it down to the field and Jim Barber.
Hey, thank you, Wayne. First of all, Coach, the health of Curtis Enos.
Well, he was sick. He got sick on Wednesday. He didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday, and he wants to go, but there's no sense using him today. He's going to be fine. He got a little bit of an infection, and the doctors didn't want him to practice because he was weak, but he was all set to go today if we needed him.
Your running backs have done okay without him.
Yeah, well, we have good young.
It's a pretty good balance for Penn State. Yes, they're going to be top-heavy on the ground. I think Joe Paterno likes that. A couple of penalties against Northern Illinois. Time of possession, Northern Illinois did a good job early holding on to the football in their first drive of the game.
And NIU, that's where they got most of their yards, was on that first drive, 14-play drive. Since then, they really haven't done an awful lot, and they haven't been able to keep their defense off the field.
So we're just about set for the start of the second half of this afternoon's game. Northern Illinois will kick it away to Penn State. Now, overcast skies, crisp and cool here at State College, Pennsylvania. Brian Clark will boot it for Northern Illinois. Chaffee Fields back deep for Penn State, along with Cordell Mitchell. And here is the boot, and it's taken by Cordell Mitchell near the goal line. Mitchell trying to follow his blocking, picks his way out across the 30-yard line to the 32-yard line. Moments ago, Jim Barber talked with NIU head coach Joe Novak.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Wayne. Joe Novak and Northern Illinois trailing at the break 35-0. You knew this was going to be tough. Is this tougher than expected?
Well, you know, Joe put some kids in there at the end of the first half, too, to help a little bit. But, you know, I told our kids, I said, I just want to come out, go back to our game plan, and try to get our football better. And we're going to treat it like I told them, this is the best paid scout team we're going to have here in the second half. And we're just going to do our thing and try to improve.
Joe, a contusion of the back for William Triplett. Then at the end of the first half, strapped in on the stretcher and carried off. What do we know about him?
Yeah, all I know is he took, the two of them collided, and he took a helmet from Steve Smith in the back, and I know they took him for x-rays. I don't think it's serious, but I don't know, so we're just going to have to wait and see.
Steve going to be okay?
Steve's fine. He had a burner, which these kids get, and then it took him a little while to recover, but he's going to be okay.
Quickly, what do you expect in the second half? What can you accomplish?
Well, as I told our kids, I want to see us go out there and just work at our football and try to get it better. We've got to do that, and, you know, they're going to come out and play hard. I know that.
All right, thank you, Joe. Hey, Jim. Back to you, Wayne.
Mike McQuarrie on second down. Joe Nastasi diving grab. First down to the 49-yard line of NIU. Well, in the first half, Penn State had 7 completed passes. 4 of them went to wide receivers, and that's something that they wanted to do. They wanted to get the ball to the flank, to the wide receivers. They had not been able to do that very well in the first 2 weeks of the season.
And a lot of that was because those wide receivers were not running the kind of routes they needed to. They want to work on that so that when they need it as the season goes on, they can rely on something.
Jason Slow, the ball carrier, gain of about 3 yards. Mendel Hester on the stop for Northern Illinois, and he is a fine linebacker, senior from Harvey, Illinois, attended Thornton High School.
Joe Novak said that he missed spring ball because of a knee injury, and he heard he was very good. He really didn't know how good he was, and when he showed up this fall ready to go, he was very, very impressed.
Mitchell is the tailback. The fullback slowed, and Mitchell Eberle gets the call. Eberle inserted back into the lineup. He started the ball game earlier today. Eberle a loss of about 3 yards. Back near the 49-yard line. Will Ford, the defensive end, made the stop.
You have to like the approach that Novak and the Huskies are taking. They don't care what the score is. They want to come out here, improve, fly around, play with the attitude that we're going to want to play with at the opening kickoff the rest of the season. Let's just work on fundamental football, tackle, let's catch the ball, let's block, and let's just try and get better.
We have a slot set up to the bottom of your screen. Juravicius and Nastasi on 3rd down and 10 from the 49. This is Mike McQuarrie. Play action. McQuarrie and a man wide open right through the hands of Cuncho Brown. Would have had a first down inside the 40-yard line of Northern Illinois. It is a 4th down for Penn State.
Cuncho Brown, you see right there, number 82. He's an interesting story. He's the backup tight end to Keith Olsemer, but he's bigger, he's faster. They say he's got great hands, although that ball went right through him. A former basketball player, but the reason he's not starting is because Penn State has such an obligation to their 5th-year seniors, and Olsemer is a 5th-year senior. Brown, as a sophomore, you got to wait your turn.
Daryl Kenya's punt to Leon Moody. Fair catch signal made and completed near the 10-yard line, where the Huskies will put it in play for the 1st and 10. Early going 3rd quarter in Happy Valley. Northern Illinois trailing 35-0.
Crunchy toasted taste to them.
I'm going to run home and buy a box of Wheaties for me.
Take that off. The carrier, and Herring made the stop for Penn State. 2nd down coming up. Gain of about 2 or 3 on that play.
Not ideal field position for the Huskies, and Penn State starting the 2nd half with their #1 defensive unit. Other than that first drive, Joe Paterno's got to be very happy with how this defensive unit is played. Probably give him a series or 2 here in the 3rd quarter to get back into the rhythm.
Option. Tally. Nowhere. Matter of fact, negative yardage on that play. Brian Miller, the cornerback, came up and played it like a linebacker.
And Chris Snyder did a wonderful job of fighting off the block and forcing the pitch. And then you had Brian Miller, number 34, one-on-one. He does not follow the receiver down. He reads the play, doesn't follow him down. When you got nobody blocking Miller like that, he sees the option. He's got his pitch back. Boy, that's a tough spot to give your tailback. Have to concentrate on catching the ball and get around an all-everything defensive back with nobody blocking him.
That was a form tackle. 3rd and long. This is the fullback, Mike Stanton. Ooh, and he gets hammered near the 15-yard line. My goodness. Penn State. Brandon Short came up to make that hit. Short was a linebacker. They moved him to defensive end. Got a little more speed and quickness out there.
Brandon Short is a player that he missed all of last year and the spring ball with an injury. He's got great size, 6'3", 240 pounds, but he's so young and inexperienced. This is really the first field they've got for him.
Tim Herring nabbed immediately by Rashawn Smith. And it'll be 1st down, Penn State at the Nittany Lions 46. Early in the 3rd period, and Penn State in command. Northern Illinois. Some of the linemen catching their breath here as Penn State takes over offensively with a first down at the state 46-yard line. Nastasi, the man in motion. Mike McQuarrie, the backup quarterback, is in there. And this is Chris Eberly. Eberly pulled down by Jackson. Rayshon Jackson, after a gain of a couple of yards, maybe 3 yards, out to the 49. Penn State leading 35-0. All the scoring coming in the first half. We're almost 5 minutes into the third quarter. And a second down and about 7 yards to go. McQuarrie to the air. Joe Vicious wide open. Touchdown. Joe Vicious broke ahead of the field. And Penn State leads it 41-0.
Well, when you try and ISO a wide receiver on a strong safety, even though Stephen is playing the corner position, his natural position is one of the safeties, it's awful tough to expect that guy to cover a wide receiver one-on-one. Great protection. McQuarrie does a nice job putting a lot of air into the ball, throws it right out front of Jurevicius, and he had got a good 4 or 5 yards on Patrick Stephen. As good a player, 4.0 student as Patrick Stephen is, he just doesn't quite have the speed to keep up with a wide receiver.
Right, Conway with the point after. And again, Patrick Stephen has had to play safety and cornerback here today due to injuries. We've got a break. Third quarter, State adds to its lead. 51-yard touchdown reception from Mike McQuarrie. And that has Penn State on the board for the first time in the second half, but leading 42-0 overall. Deion Mitchell back deep. And he's going to field this one from the 10. Mitchell hit that hole hard out near the 31-yard line. Deion Mitchell on the return. And take a look at the previous touchdown from the quarterback's point of view.
When you come up, you see man coverage, no free safety, and you know one of your receivers is running a post route. Your eyes get big. You just get excited and hope that that receiver gives you an angle to throw the ball. Jurevicius did a nice job there, setting up Stephen, breaking to the inside. Easy throw for McQuarrie as long as he put enough air underneath it, which he did.
Just 2 plays, 54 yards for Penn State on the scoring drive. Brandon Barker drills it to the tight end, Mitch Jacoby. He's got a first down to the 43-yard line. Gain of 11. Maurice Daniels, a linebacker, made the stop. And let's go back to Mike Leisha to the Big Ten studio. Mike?
Okay, Wayne.
Tough battle brewing there. First down at the 43-yard line of Northern. Here comes Talley. Gets a block from Chambers, the fullback, out of the flank, and Talley with his best run of the day. Gain of 11 to the Penn State 46. Join the Big Ten Conference on the internet at www.big10.org. You know how to do all those dots and that computer stuff?
If you give me an hour, I may be able to tell you how to turn the computer on.
If you gave me a year,
I don't know.
If you gave me a year, I still wouldn't understand it.
We went to the same class, I see.
Exactly. I still write longhand. Here comes Talley again. This time, nothing doing, or not a lot. They nab him at the 45-yard line, gain of maybe a yard. Clint Cease closed the hole. That linebacker, Maurice Douglas, was also there. He's playing pretty well. Redshirt freshman out of Alexandria, Virginia. Player of the year in Washington, D.C. 2 years ago.
He was one that they have very high expectations for, and is still young and hasn't had an opportunity to play because so many of these starters came back from last year. But I think he's going to develop into a fine football player. They certainly hope so here.
Randy, they've got to get it to the guy at the top of your screen. Deion Mitchell right there. They've been unable to really get it into his hands from the offensive sets very much. Barker going over the middle. Leon Moody, good catch and run, and he's close to the first down. Pick up on that play of about 8 yards. Third down coming up. Aaron Gatton, a linebacker, made the stop for Penn State.
Well, they got it to one of their wide receivers. It wasn't Mitchell, and I agree, Wayne. He's the best player. You've got to get the ball into the hands of your players that can make plays, whether it's Moody, as you see there on your screen, or Mitchell. that starts with offensive line protection and goes from there, but that's their best chance of making something happen.
Florence started to go to the left. Penn State had it backed up, and Florence did well to get back to the line of scrimmage. That'll leave a 4th down and about a yard to go coming up.
Little trickery there in the Husky offense to get up there quickly and run a play before Penn State got settled. It's hard to fool Penn State. Mentally, they're pretty prepared for everything.
They certainly are. So it'll be 4th down. Joe Novak was not bashful about going for it on 4th down in the first quarter. 4th and about a yard to go. Straight T formation. And the keeper by the quarterback, Brendan Barker, and I believe he's got the first down. It went straight ahead behind Bill Wise, his center. Wise is an interesting story. He's starting at center today. Nick Lundeen, the starter going into the fall drills, injured a knee prior to the spring game, and he's projected back at midseason. But Bill Wise at one point last year was playing tight end for the Northern Illinois Huskies. He's normally a guard.
Well,
let's look at it.
He's got awfully big size for a center, 297 pounds. Generally, you ask your center to do a lot of things. They've got to make the calls. They've got to turn. They help out. You're playing 297 pounds. That's pretty big for a center. As we had talked about earlier, you have a lot of changes in Northern Illinois' offensive line. They lost 3 to graduation. They had a couple of guys hurt. They've moved a backup guard, put him at center. Done all kinds of different things.
Well, I thought they had a first down, but he did not get as generous a spot of the ball. Give the quarterback Brendan Barker. They come up inches short. And now Penn State takes over offensively just across the 36-yard line in Nittany Lion territory. So good stand by Jerry Sandusky. He's the man in the middle, putting the headset on right now of your picture. His young defensive players. And like I said, Penn State, basically since late in the second quarter, has had a lot of the young defensive players in the ball game. McQuarrie to Aaron Harris. Harris is brought down from behind by Salim Phillips.
Aaron Harris is one of the backs that's really been a pleasant surprise for Penn State. He came in, he's a redshirt freshman. They thought he'd be a good back, but they weren't sure how quickly he would develop. And in talking to Fran Gantner yesterday, he said that was a real pleasant surprise that he's developed so quickly to the level that he has.
2nd down, and it's about 8 yards to go. Jones was in motion, and here comes Harris again, plowing close to the first down, out to the 45-yard line. It'll be 3rd and short coming up for Penn State. Evie Parsons made the stop on the play. Salim Phillips also there for Northern Illinois. And 3rd and about a yard to go for Penn State.
One thing you learn, Wayne, in watching this Penn State offense and all these different backs, if you don't make something happen when you get an opportunity, there are a lot of backs standing in line, and you're not going to get many more opportunities.
3rd down, short yardage situation, Penn State. Cordell Mitchell. First down to the 46-yard line of Northern Illinois. Hester in on that stop along with Patrick Stevens. So it'll be first down for Penn State on a gain of about 6-7 yards. Cordell Mitchell has looked good running the football today. All of these Penn State backs. Chaffee Fields, Chris Eberle have performed well. Of course, Aaron Harris, saw a lot of him in the ball game last week against Louisville.
I think their offensive line is a little more stable now than it has been the first couple of games, and that's given whichever back is carrying the ball a little more room to run.
McQuarrie drills his wide receiver, Chris Campbell, for a first down at the 30-yard line. Dwayne Hoffman.
Stop by 44, Salim Phillips. First down, Penn State.
Chris Campbell is a wideout that Penn State was really counting on to perform very well from the very beginning. You see here McQuarrie, plenty of time, good strong arm throw right to the sideline, and right as Campbell catches that, you see him turn to the inside there, trying to pick up everything he could. Didn't turn to the outside, go out of bounds. Turns to the inside, tries to fight for more yardage.
That was Salim Phillips on that stop. Now, here we go. First down and a straight-ahead plow-type move into the left side of the offensive line for the Nittany Lions. I believe that was Eberle on the carry. They have been switching backs back and forth. And indeed was Chris Eberle.
second down.
Well, we've seen Penn State throw the ball. Even though they're ahead here 42-0, they're running it for the most part. But when they get in a passing situation, they still have some flaws in that passing offense that they wanted to work out coming into this game. And whether it's McQuarrie or Richardson or whoever's in there, they want to get a little more confidence in that passing game. That's why on the previous play you saw the pass to Campbell.
With the tailback, Cordell Mitchell fumbled the football on the hit by Mandel Hester, and Northern Illinois says they've got it. And in fact, they do. So Mitchell fumbles the football, and Penn State's second turnover of the day gives Northern Illinois an opportunity at the Husky 27-yard line.
Well, regardless of the score, that's not going to make Joe Paterno very happy over there. He goes up to him, as you can see, tells him, wrap the ball up. Both hands around the ball. Don't hold it with just one.
First down for Northern Illinois. Brendan Barker still in at quarterback. And Barker's pass nearly picked off by Mike Buzzin, a defensive tackle who slipped a couple of steps back behind the line of scrimmage. That took a step or two back instead of coming forward at the quarterback, didn't he?
That's become a very popular defensive tactic. You bring a linebacker and you drop a lineman into the cover zone that the linebacker would be in, and a quarterback sees a linebacker blitz, thinks man-to-man coverage, throws to a man, all of a sudden, boom, there's your defensive tackle.
That would be rather disconcerting, wouldn't it? Out of the eye. Talley trying to get to the outside. Well, the youngster had him in the offensive backfield. Just couldn't quite wrap him up. Courtney Brown, Aaron Gatton got over to make the stop. It is a loss of a couple of yards anyway. It'll leave it 3rd and 12 for Northern Illinois.
We've talked a little bit earlier, Wayne, that Talley just looks a little bit overweight still. He came in about 15 pounds overweight, hasn't gotten it off, and I think it's affected him because he just doesn't quite have the explosiveness that they would like him to.
All right, 3rd down, passing situation. Barker trying to get it down the sidelines to Leon Moody. Pretty well covered by Shino Prater. It's a 4th down for the Huskies.
When you've got 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12, and you don't think you're going to have a lot of time to throw the ball, you've got to throw it up there, hope your receiver makes something happen. Barker gave him a good chance to go for the ball. Moody just couldn't separate himself from Prater and give him a chance to catch it.
Kent Baker gets off a shallow punt. Chris Campbell at the 42. Campbell out near the midfield marker, and it'll be a 1st down for Penn State. Mukmin Mohammed made the stop. Under 4 minutes to go in the 3rd. It's been all Penn State. It's State College, Pennsylvania. Let's get out of the sidelines for Jim Barber. Jim?
Thank you, Wayne. As Northern Illinois builds its football program up, we have a man who has taken Northern Illinois' jazz ensemble across America and the world. Ron Modell is retiring this year after 28 years. You've had a spectacular career, and we congratulate you on that. You've had some very special moments as of late, having toured in Switzerland with some very special people.
Yes, we were very honored to be selected by Quincy Jones to have him conduct the NIU Jazz Ensemble for a 50-year retrospective of his music, a program that featured Phil Collins, Chaka Khan, Patty Austin, David Sanborn, and a host of other great jazz stars. And it was filmed, and it will be shown worldwide, so I'm sure we'll get plenty of coverage once it's released.
Those are some spectacular musicians. Were you in awe of them at any time?
Yes, we had a wonderful time, and the thing that was so thrilling to me was to see them turn around and applaud the NIU Jazz Ensemble during the rehearsals.
Now, we bring you over here because you have a very special relationship with Penn State coach Joe Paterno. Let's go back a few years as to how that first got established.
Well, I was so moved by a speech I heard him give after a bowl game against Bear Bryant's Alabama that I felt compelled to sit and write him a letter, because his philosophies were so great and kind of followed what I had been doing. And he was kind enough to immediately return a letter within a week. And that was about 10 years ago, and we've sort of become pen pals. But we had our first face-to-face meeting last night before the dinner, you know, and spent a wonderful half hour together. He's a magnificent man, and I think the thing that really touched me most was his comments about our new coach, Joe Novak. he really feels very good that Northern has selected Joe Novak and has said that Joe is going to bring this program where it should be.
We know that Joe Paterno thinks football, football, and more football. This may surprise you. There are some other interests that Joe has. In fact, when we think about his musical interests, it goes back many years. And, of course, having something in common along lines, I think, is very important. Let's show you what Joe had to say about his musical interests and how it relates to this man, Ron Modell.
I grew up on jazz in New York when I was a kid. In college, we used to go down to New York to the Village all the time. It was Dixieland in those times, but then I got a little bit of a taste for different types of jazz. But Ron's a great person and great for music.
In fact, Joe wrote you a very nice letter in regards to your retirement.
Yeah, it was great. You know, I was very honored last year. My successor, Ron Carter, gave a concert in my honor, and Joe was invited by Susan Pierce from our NIU Foundation. And he wrote Susan this letter. He said, "Dear Susan, I wish I could make the concert, but we'll be in the middle of spring practice. Please tell Ron I wish him the best, and I'm sorry I can't make it. Also tell him there's no controversy as to whether he's number one. It isn't even close. It was good to hear from you, and sincerely, Joe." So that letter meant quite a bit to me.
It sure. Thank you, Ron Modell, and good luck in your retirement. I'm sure you'll be busy.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, back from the studios to upstairs, Wayne and Randy.
Jeffy Fields still on his feet and tightrope the sidelines for a first down. The 11-yard line of Northern Illinois. So a gain of 11 yards, and Penn State sets up shop just outside the 10 with a first down.
A lot of backup offensive linemen in there for Penn State, but these guys very talented. They don't get an opportunity to play very much. They're doing a great job. They've just been moving the Northern Illinois defensive front seven, probably getting a little tired at this point. It's moving them backwards, giving a lot of room for those backs to run through.
Tikas Pettigrew, a true freshman out of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, in the slot at the top of your screen. But this is Anthony Cleary, a sophomore from Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. And he picks up a couple of yards, a few yards inside the 10, down near the 7-yard line, gain of about 4.
Good to see Anthony Cleary back in there. He also had an ankle injury. Must be something with the fullbacks here, the ankle injuries. His was more of a nagging thing that he just now is getting back into rhythm and getting back into the groove of things.
Penn State on a second down outside the 6-yard line of Northern Illinois. Cleary to the end zone for the touchdown. So Anthony Cleary gets the call from 6 yards out. And Penn State's lead is 48-0 with 63 seconds to go in the third.
But you can play only with so much emotion, Wayne. And Northern Illinois trying their best, came out here. I think they're just worn down right now. You see this from ground level. This is what it looks like if you're a cornerback trying to come up and make the tackle. Doesn't look very inviting. So good blocking, good job of sealing off the entire left side of that defensive line. Gave Cleary plenty of room to get into the end zone.
I was just looking. Anthony Cleary is bigger than any linebacker on the board for Northern Illinois. You know that?
He's probably just as fast also.
He's faster. No, I don't want to take anything away from the Northern kids, but that's the kind of athlete that they get.
And what you have right now at the end of the third quarter is you get a back that's fresh, that's a lot bigger, going against linebackers that have been playing for 3 quarters.
And have been playing their hearts out. These Northern kids, despite the scoreboard, they trail 49-0, have acquitted themselves well here today. They came in here hoping to play hard, enjoy it, and have fun. They've played hard. They haven't always played well, but they certainly have played hard and given what they have. And let's, at this juncture, step away for a moment. Back to the Big Ten studio and Mike Gleason.
All right, Wayne, we mentioned that
Carolina, an independent this year, but joining the Conference USA next year. That'll be a good addition to that group.
And Northern Illinois joining the MAC next year.
It'll be a wonderful addition for that conference. Joe Novak has a background in the MAC, attended as a student, Miami of Ohio, I believe it was. And the cradle of coaches, right? Bo Schembechler, a bunch of people came out of there.
A lot of them come from there. You're right.
And here's the kickoff. And it's taken by one of the upbacks. And out of the Matt Chambers returns out across the 20 to about the 23-yard line. Let's take a look at the major independents right now. Currently in Division 1A, it will shrink by 2. as East Carolina and Northern Illinois leave. And Notre Dame, a couple of those, well, at least Army, they still play Army, don't they? Notre Dame, Army and Navy.
I think they're trying to schedule the rest of them, too.
That would ensure bowl seasons to come for Lou Holtz and company. Actually, they're playing Navy in Ireland this year.
That's a road trip.
Yeah, that's a pretty good road trip, is right. Take along your golf clubs on that one. First down out of the 23-yard line. Williams is the quarterback, and Scott Florence, the running back, got a nice move. Kenneth Williams, who was recruited in Northern Illinois at quarterback as a option quarterback. New Orleans, Louisiana. There's a look at him.
Wayne, you said something a couple minutes ago that the Huskies maybe haven't always played well, but they've played hard this entire game. And I think Joe Novak's got to be very pleased with that, because you can coach and teach your kids how to play better. You can get them on strength programs. You can get them in conditioning programs. You can do a lot of things like that to get them to play better. It's harder to change the attitude in the heart of a kid. And I think, I agree with you, his kids have played very, very hard today, and I think he's got to be very pleased with that.
Rashawn Smith almost lost the football as he was brought down. I believe one of the Nittany Lions, they say they've got it, but the officials are ruling a first down, and in fact, Smith did hang on to it at the 45-yard line. So a big play right there for Northern Illinois as they pick up a first down and then some.
We talked about getting the ball into the hands of their playmakers, their outside receivers, and let them try and run and make something. Just a little pass right over the middle against a zone defense, the middle spread. Smith comes right in there. Nice pass. Nice job by Williams getting him the ball, and Smith makes something happen once he catches it.
So it is a first down for Northern Illinois. The Penn State 45. Penn State leading 49-0 as time expires in this third period of play. So we played 3 quarters at Beaver Stadium, State College, Pennsylvania, and the Nittany Lions have a 49-0 lead. Nittany,
that big bump
worth the foothills of Mount Nittany. It's not like we're at the foothills of the Rockies, but we're in a beautiful part of the country, central Pennsylvania. This is gorgeous here. And Northern Illinois continuing to try to crank away, maybe get a touchdown or so on the board. Running hard off the right side of the offensive line is Scott Florence. He has been running hard all day. Hasn't always had a good enough blocking, but he gets a couple of yards there.
When he hasn't had good blocking, he's given it his effort and generally created some kind of positive yardage out of it. Even if it's just a yard or two, when you're taking those hits on play after play and falling forward, that's wearing and tearing on your body throughout the day.
2nd and 9. Long count by Kenneth Williams. And Scott Florence, boy, they were waiting for him, weren't they? Behind the line of scrimmage, Lawrence goes down. Clint Cease arrived on the scene along with others.
It's what you call a gang tackle down there. That tackle gets credited to the team. Not much room for Lawrence to run through there.
So it'll be a 3rd down. A loss of 2 on the play. 3rd and 11. Opening minute in this 4th quarter. Penn State winning as expected, 49-0. That's Rashawn Smith to the top of your screen. The slot set up to the bottom. Deion Mitchell in the slot. Kenneth Williams going over the top. Leon Moody pass off the mark. Closest to it was Derek Fox, a defensive back for Penn State. You know, many will be wondering why we see so many mismatches at this time of season in college football. And quite frankly, there have been a bevy of them where a smaller school or a middle-level Division 1A school will head to a place like Happy Valley or maybe down to the Swamp in Florida and take on one of the big schools. And there are a number of reasons on both sides for this type of thing. We'll talk about it as we get along here in the 4th quarter. But there are some residual pluses on both sides. Confirmation time and a penalty marker down as Baker gets his kick away. And this one caroms inside the 10, taking a Husky roll out of bounds just at the 10-yard line. Penalty marker down, and we'll see what the penalty situation is as the officials confer. Some of this crowd of 95,000 has been heading to the exits. They're going to pick up the flag. No foul. Let's take a break. 13:23 to go. Penn State, big. What better place? First and 10 of their 10-yard line, leading 49-0. We began to talk a little bit about why a smaller school would come into a place like this and schedule a game like this. And part of it is financial, in that Northern Illinois will walk away from here today with about a $200,000 windfall on this game, and that can go a long way to supporting your athletic budget, not just football, but athletics in general.
Well, when you do that week after week and you schedule a lot of these tough games, in Northern Illinois this year will play the biggest conferences, Big Ten, Big West, SEC, ACC, Pac-10. You play some stiff competition, but you get a big paycheck, and it helps build your program, as you said, Wayne, not only your football program, but yet they are positioning themselves with a lot of the scholarships on the football team that they will have available over the next couple of years. They could set themselves up to where they could be in pretty good shape in the not-too-distant future.
That was Chris Everly on the carry. Also, Joe Novak in his school. Even when they get into the MAC, he mentioned they're going to try to play on a regular basis in Illinois and Iowa, Wisconsin, and maybe even a Penn State on occasion. I think it's very good for the kids. He could say, hey, listen, we're going to go to Happy Valley during your career. You're going to play in a big-time environment.
You're going to play on TV. You're going to play in front of 95,000 people. And you know what? We're going to be competitive. And it may not happen today, and it may not happen tomorrow, but Joe Novak knows what he's doing. I think he's going to build a very successful program for the Huskies, and they've only got 62, 63 players on scholarship, and over the next couple of years, as they build that up, I think they're going to be very successful there.
Now, take a look at their upcoming games. Back to teams that they're more on level with. Arkansas State, Texas, El Paso, North Texas. Louisville will be a tough opponent for them on the 19th. Louisville looked very good defensively here a week ago at Beaver Stadium.
Penn State's coaches have a tremendous amount of respect for Louisville, especially the defensive side of the ball. That could be another tough game for the Husky offense, but you hope they improve quite a bit by the time they play Louisville.
Jeff Nixon on that carry gets a first down for Penn State. Now, if you're a big school like Penn State, what are you doing? And people will ask, what are you doing scheduling smaller schools like this? Well, there are a couple of reasons, Randy, and I think, number one, Joe Paterno realizes that you can't afford to lose a game early in the season. You could lose the national championship in September. There's no question about that, and it's been done many times.
Much like the Heisman Trophy. You're not going to win it September, but you sure can lose it.
And, you know, so you might have a Southern Cal on the kickoff classic. But you're also going to have Northern Illinois. You're going to have Temple as an in-state rival, and they've developed a pretty good rivalry over the years with Temple. And Ron Dickerson, head coach at Temple, used to coach here at Penn State. And take a look at the upcoming games before you get into that Big Ten schedule. Now, we're seeing teams who used to schedule maybe 2 or 3 real tough opponents early in the season. They were big-time television money games. But more and more what you're seeing are the big schools maybe play one real tough opponent early in the season, and yet the others are opponents that they can handle. Now, the other factor is this here at Penn State. They try to get an extra home game each year. 95,000 come here. They pump, $40 million a year into the economy with about 5 or 6 home games. So they need to get an extra home game. They don't have to return Northern Illinois' game. They don't have to play out in DeKalb. They can have Northern come here once in a while, and Penn State does not have to schedule DeKalb on the road in the future. Penn State off a holding penalty, backed up, and Chris Everly gets the call out near the 20-yard line. So there are advantages. What we're trying to tell you, folks, is there are advantages on both sides to the way scheduling is. And there was an article in USA Today earlier this year about how few big games there are anymore in September. You very rarely see the matchups. The best matchup today in college football is Michigan and Colorado.
And Michigan has always played tough teams in the non-conference. Another reason, Wayne, why you're seeing what you just talked about is the conferences have expanded and gotten so much more competitive. Absolutely. With the Big 12 and now Penn State in the Big 10. It's very tough to go through the conference schedule and have an undefeated season, so you can't afford to risk that in the non-conference.
Nixon on the carry. Jeff Nixon may have lost the football, and the Huskies say they've got it. Apparently they do at the 25-yard line. Fumble recovery made by Will Ford, who has done a good job all afternoon. A transfer out of Harper Junior College from Rockford, Illinois. We've got a break in the action. Northern Illinois will take over with its best field position of the day when we return.
For the most part, people look to their cars as a way to get where they're going. And if your car doesn't perform, well, you could end up somewhere you don't want to be. We don't want that. That's why for nearly 80 years, people from far and wide have counted on Phillips to get them on their way. Mile after mile, year after year. For all the miles to come, Phillips 66, the performance company.
If you shopped for a car or minivan at a place that sold, leased, carried new and used vehicles, performs major and minor repairs.
Back at Beaver Stadium, State College, Pennsylvania, Northern Illinois has started its drive. Began at the 25. It's down to the 20-yard line on a fine reception by Leon Moody, and he was shaken up on a hip. And take a look at it.
See Moody coming right over the middle like he has so often. You see Anthony King, one of the defensive backs that they're very, very high on, and you see Moody go right into the knee. What a tough one. I believe that was David Fleischauer, who he went right into the knee with his helmet on. Very, very ugly looking hit there, Wayne.
So they continue to work on the wide receiver from Northern Illinois, Leon Moody, a senior from Florissant, Missouri. And last week he had 8 receptions in the ball game against Western Illinois. Came in with 10 catches to lead this ball club along with Deion Mitchell. Let's get back to the studio. Mike Gleason in the Big Ten studio. Mike?
All right, Wayne, Virginia Tech starting to pull away from Boston College. This time, Brian Edmonds, the fullback, finds a hole. He goes 19 yards for the touchdown, 28-7, but it's now 35-7 still in the third. Virginia Tech over BC. Wayne?
It's Dan Henning's program up there at Boston College, isn't it? Former offensive line coach.
That's where Tom Coughlin left when he went down to the Jaguars in the NFL.
Sure was. There it is. They finally get the young wide receiver, Leon Moody, off the field. Hopefully he'll be all right.
He looks a little dazed.
Yeah,
I think he's not sure where he is.
I think he just got dinged a little bit. And he'll be back next week, hopefully, for Northern Illinois. 2nd and 5. Tally to the line of scrimmage, no farther. So 3rd and 5 coming up for Northern Illinois. Under 10 minutes to go in this one. Penn State leading 49-0. The point spread was 44 points. Penn State led 35-0 at halftime.
And Northern Illinois' offense has sputtered this year quite a bit. Only 6 points in 2 games and being shut out here so far. They've only been inside the 20-yard line twice. Right now, the ball just on the outside of it.
3rd down for Northern Illinois. That's Mitchell at the top of your screen. Play action, and Williams on the roll, being chased by Clint Cease. Penalty marker down, going to be a hold on Northern Illinois. Clint Cease may have been the man who was held, and he eventually made the stop on the play. Made the tackle, loss of 6 back to the 26-yard line. There's a penalty marker down, as we mentioned, and it's the indication for hold against the offense. See if we can pick it up, Randy.
Looks right there on the right in the middle of your screen right now. Cease had the quarterback in his grasp, being held right there, and right there by Kent Booth. Take another look at it. Number 73 for Northern Illinois grabs him right there on the top of the shoulders, saves his quarterback, sacrifices a lot of yards though.
You know, I'll tell you what, you commit a hold against the defensive lineman, and the defensive lineman still gets the sack. That's a bad day for an offensive lineman.
You commit it right in front of the referee, right in front of the quarterback.
Well, they turned down the penalty, and now Brian Clark for a 43-yard field goal. Shutout at stake here. And Clark's kick, not nearly long enough. So the patrons here in Happy Valley happy that the shutout is still in effect. 49-0 Penn State, just under 9 minutes to go. Now they're making sure that Leon Moody is all right. He got dinged pretty good, hit by a knee on a previous play on the Northern Illinois drive, and hopefully He'll be all right. Leon Moody, one of the fine wide receivers. Here's how it happened.
You see that head hit that knee right there, and he had Anthony King dragging him down. So not only did he have his weight, he had the weight of the defensive back. And there's so much has been made, Wayne, of the head injuries and the concussions and all that have happened lately. That was a very scary-looking injury right there, and they're giving him all the attention on the sideline. He walked off, though, mostly under his own power, with just a little direction, because I don't think he knows where he was.
Penn State going to 3-0 here this afternoon. Anthony Cleary getting an opportunity to stretch his legs for the first time this season. Let's go down to the sidelines and Jim Barber.
All right, Wayne, Leon Moody is feeling a little bit better right now, but certainly not better enough to get in the game. The doctors and trainers are men a few words here, guys. 5 words to be exact. He got his bell rung.
All right, Jim. Second down for Penn State. About 3 yards to go. Gain of 7 on the previous play. Hole opens up over the middle, and bursting through is Cordell Mitchell for a first down and then some. Salim Phillips made the stop. First down across the 40-yard line near the 43.
Penn State continuing to give some of those younger backs a chance to carry the ball. Mitchell, a redshirt freshman in here, done a real nice job today.
And for those of you catching us late, Curtis Enos did not start and has not played here today. He is in uniform. And Joe Paterno mentioned to Jim Barber earlier, and just before halftime, that Curtis Enos would probably not play here today. He was under the weather this week. And apparently will be held out for this ball game. Missed a couple of practices and will hopefully be back next week. And there he is. Looks like the young man's passed the flu bug. Hopefully he hasn't passed it on to anyone. That's the thing. I trust he is non-communicable if he's in uniform. Take a look at the top rushing games in Penn State history. That pass was juggled and dropped by Tikis Pettigrew, a true freshman out of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. He would have had his biggest pass reception of his young career at Penn State had he been able to hang on to that one. Take a look at this lineup. Kurt Warner. Shorty Miller was just a few years before your time, Randy.
1912. I wonder if Joe was here then.
Joe was merely
Joe may remember him. And Curtis Enos, 241 yards against a quality opponent, Southern Cal.
And getting the call on the straight-ahead move, Cordell Mitchell, a spin move. Gain on that play of about 5 yards. He's just short of the first down by a yard and a half. Terrell Alexander made the stop. Salim Phillips also there for Northern Illinois.
I mean, this is very valuable experience that these young backs for Penn State are picking up, because Enos apparently is going to be fine and come back. But if something happened down the road, you need to rely on these other backs, and because of the way the situation has fallen last year for Penn State, there was not a lot of depth, experience depth at the tailback position.
Pat Pigeon is on in punt formation for Penn State. And he kind of shanked that one just a bit. And it backs up, takes a northern bounce, and is down by Aaron Collins near the 26-yard line. 6:28 to go here at State College. Penn State 49-0 over Northern Illinois. Talley is hit behind the line, lost about 2 or 3 yards, back to the 22-yard line. It'll be a second down coming up for Northern Illinois.
1973, they had quite a core of running backs out there. Dorsett, Griffin, and Keller.
Man, I guess they did, didn't they? You know, you take a look at some of NIU's history. LaShawn Johnson was an outstanding college player.
The Packer for a while.
Yes, he was. Charles Talley, I believe LaShawn got a shot with the Cardinals down in Arizona.
Yes, he did.
Charles Talley, a great year last year, off to a slow start this season. Second down off a loss of about 4. And that's Reed, the tight end, driven back on the play by Dave Macklin, defensive back. Macklin, another talented freshman, true freshman. Played some kicking teams last week.
As you see, Wayne, with a lot of the depth at the Division I schools now. Young players in the 2 deep. Before, they'd redshirt them all. You wouldn't see them in there till their sophomore, maybe junior year. You go through Penn State's depth, Northern Illinois' depth, and Ohio State, which we did last week. A lot of true freshmen and redshirt freshmen in the 2 deep. Going to see a lot of playing time this year.
Kenneth Williams on his own. And out of bounds. Boy, Kenny, you see he was
that's where that option ability comes in.
And it came in handy right there. He had Nittany Lions raining all over him, and he's out of bounds near the 30-yard line. It'll be 4th down.
He lives to play another day. Williams has gotten some good playing time today. Done a nice job. Come in under very adverse conditions and done a nice job for himself.
Kent Baker in punt formation. He's done a lot of that today. Kind of a line drive kick. And on the return for the Nittany Lions, David Macklin.
Number 27, David Macklin on the return.
And Macklin is covered up short of the 35-yard line, where it'll be 1st down for Penn State. Just under 5 minutes to go in the football game, and Penn State leading 49-0 to the sidelines in Jim Barber.
All right, thank you, Wayne. A lot of people may not be familiar with the fact that there's another Paterno here in this stadium, and in fact, he is here quite often. He is the radio analyst on the broadcast team. He is George Paterno, the brother of Joe Paterno. George did some coaching in his career. In fact, Joe said he's a terrific coach, but eventually decided on broadcasting, and he's been doing broadcasting for some 15, 16, 17 years. What's interesting, Sports Illustrated did an article on this relationship. They're very close brothers. In fact, as it turns out, though, Paterno, speaking of George, is quite critical at times of Joe's coaching. They still get along, in fact, and that's the good news. And in fact, when I asked Joe about it yesterday, he says, yes, we're very close. He says, I just pity the poor guy from Sports Illustrated that had to spend 2 hours with my brother. Wayne?
All right, Jim. David McHenry, number 13, is at a quarterback. There is a look at, there's some, you know, there's certainly some similarities facially between the two. George 2 years younger than Joe.
George doesn't pull any punches when he analyzes the play calling and everything else that happens down on the field.
Quick call, a quick handoff up the middle. Very short yardage, Cordell Mitchell on the, or I should say Jeff Nixon on the carry. David McHenry in a quarterback. Joe Paterno has gone deep on his bench.
He had another quarterback, Kevin Thompson, but he is a redshirt freshman. He got hurt earlier and is not available to play.
So 3rd down and about a yard to go for Penn State. Football out near the 43. And here comes Nixon. He's got a 1st down and more to the near sideline, to the 48-yard line. Salim Phillips made the stop.
Well, one of the fears Joe Novak had coming in today was if his team were getting beat badly and worn down, that he wouldn't suffer a lot of injuries that would affect him over the rest of the season. For the most part, although there have been some players that have been hurt and some players that have been helped off the field, there hadn't seemed to be a large number of them, and the injuries that we have seen for the most part haven't been real serious.
Well, hopefully Leon Moody will be back next week. This is a call to Chappie Fields, and he makes a spin move to get out to the midfield marker. Thereabouts, gain of a couple of yards. And again, Salim Phillips has acquitted himself well here today, a junior from St. Louis, Missouri. He's been the nickel back for Northern Illinois, but he's playing a lot more here in this ball game as William Triplett was shaken up early, a cornerback.
Phillips has done a nice job, come up and made several tackles, which is bad news if you're the defensive coordinator for Northern Illinois, but at least Phillips is coming up there and playing a good, tough game.
He led the team in forced fumbles last year with 3. 2nd down for Penn State. Chappie Fields again into a crowd with that spin move, and Bill Simpson, a nose guard, got over to make the principal hit defensively. It'll be a 3rd down for Penn State with a football now at the Northern Illinois 46-yard line. Next week, you'll see Penn State on many of these stations once again against Temple, but watch Chappie Fields.
Watch this gang tackle by Northern Illinois. Here they are behind late in the game. You see 5-6 Huskies coming in there to make the stop on a 2nd and 6 play to keep them for 3rd and 4. What excellent effort by the Husky defense.
3rd down for Penn State and 4 yards to go. Here comes Nixon. And he's close to the first down to the Husky 42-yard line. And as we mentioned, next week, many of you will be seeing the Penn State Nittany Lions undefeated against the Temple Owls. Check your local listings, noon Eastern time, here on Creative Sports. It's a fourth down for Penn State. And they're going to bring in the kicking unit, the punting unit.
Contrary to what the crowd wants, they're going to punt. You think Joe has ever listened to what the crowd wants?
I don't think he's adversely affected by it one way or the other.
You think he's secure enough in his position to where he doesn't have to worry about that?
You know, we mentioned Joe's love of jazz. He's intricately involved with many aspects of this university here. And this punt sails into the end zone on the carom. Pat Pigeon, the punter. And Northern Illinois will take over first down from the 20. Joe, one of the things Joe Paterno was working on pretty extensively is the building of a new wing for the library. And I believe they're going to call it the Paterno wing. And he apparently has given a lot of his money and certainly a lot of his time and fundraising efforts to build a wing onto the library here at Penn State University.
I believe, and several people, many people out here all over the country believe that Joe Paterno would do absolutely anything and everything he could for Penn State University. And if that's part of it, that takes it, then I don't think many people are surprised that he's doing that.
First down for Northern Illinois, the football to the 20-yard line. They trail in the final 2 minutes of play, 49-0. And getting the call off the middle and a good cutback move. Mike Stokes, a freshman, a redshirt freshman from Joliet, Illinois, made the stop. Joe Gummo made the stop on the corner for Penn State, gain of 6. Under a minute to go in this one. 49-0 Penn State, so the Nittany Lions increase their record to 3-0. Heading into next week's battle up in the Meadowlands. You'll be up in the Meadowlands to do that ball game.
We'll be in the Meadowlands, do a game with Temple, and Penn State's already played in the Meadowlands. Be a big game for Temple to be able to travel over there and play in front of a large crowd.
Penalty markers down. I believe the Nittany Lions were in the neutral zone. And Stokes gets the call close to the first down out at the 30-yard line. So time winding down to this one of the big crowd of 95,000 plus as pretty much headed for the exits. Let's see what the call is here officially.
Offside defense, 5-yard penalty, results in first down.
So it's a first down on the offsides against Penn State. Take a look at the crowd here heading to the exits. Do some post-game tailgating and then head on home. First down, football just short of the 31-yard line. Northern Illinois territory. Straight ahead move. Up the middle, not a whole lot there. As Mike Johnson, the tailback, got the call on the final play of the game. So, the final, Joe Paterno's Nittany Lions win it over Joe Novak and Northern Illinois, 49-0. Here is our Dodge play of the game, brought to you by the new Dodge. See the friendly Dodge dealer near you. And take a look at it again. Brandon Barker on the roll, stripped from behind by Chris Snyder, picked up by Mark Tate. He rambles into the end zone from 21 yards away, and that is our new Dodge play of the game. Special thanks to Jeff Nelson and Bud Tallman here at Penn State and Mike Corsick at Northern Illinois. Let's get out of the field and Jim Barber.
Okay, thank you very much, Wayne. Penn State wins and convincingly today. Joe, now in 3 games, your team has allowed just 14 points. Let's talk a little bit about your defense so far.
I think we're playing well defensively. We're alert, and we're lining up properly, and we're hustling to the ball. But, you know, we're going to get a lot tougher challenges than we got today, even though Northern Illinois is playing football, and they're scrappy, and they played well, so we kind of wore them down.
Before we let you go, anything that you need to concern yourself with as the weeks go on?
And everything. Okay.
Okay, Joe. Okay, back to you, Wayne.
Spoken like a true football coach who just won a ball game 49-0. Lots to worry about. We'll be right back.
What better place than an NFL game to ask people to write Jim
Jim Barber back at State College, Pennsylvania. You know, Joe Novak came in here, and he told his squad as early as Thursday afternoon he wanted to come in here, enjoy the experience for 3 hours, fly around, hit some people, don't play tight. Well, in fact, they did accomplish those goals, although they did lose the football game 49-0. Penn State, Temple next week. Let's go back to the studio and Mike Gleason.
All right, thanks a lot, Wayne. Appreciate it. 49-0. The Penn State Nittany Lions roll to the 3-0 record now in 1996. Let's bring up to date with the rest of the Big Ten.